Hey guys, I want to welcome you to another edition of Halftime Chat. And today I'm excited to introduce my guest, and he is record producer Demetrius Shipp. Some of you might know him from working with Teddy. He was part of the new Future Recordings team, and he worked on my favorite album, which is the Bobby album. He did Till the End of Time, and That's the Way Love Goes, featuring Akil from Rex and Effect. But then later on, he moved to back to the West Coast because he's from California and started to work with Death Row and became one of their in-house producers. And one of his most famous tracks is with Tupac, "Toss It Up," which Teddy tells the story about how that track was using the same sample as No Diggity. And so it's going to be interesting talking about how he left Teddy to go work for um, Death Row and came up with something similar and just his life and journey. Actually, his son now has become a lot more famous than him because his son played the lead role of Tupac in the film All Eyes on Me, and his name is also Dimitri Shipp but Junior. So it's going to be interesting talking to Dimitri's known as Mitch and Meech and seeing hearing his story. Bring Yeah. Uh, so I know, yeah, it's
I could
definitely
have been in the studio. I don't know why I didn't do that.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's fine. What do you have to drive to the studio? Is it at home or?
Yeah, your sounds low now.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, that's better. I got you.
Okay. Yes. No, that's fine. Yeah, I appreciate taking the time and stuff. Um, Normally I start off by asking my guests
Hmm.
where you were born and raised, but there was a video I just saw recently and I didn't want to forget it. It was you somebody called William Goldstein
Oh
and
yeah.
you had to do three notes and I thought, I don't want to forget that. So what was that about? Because did he tell you to give him any three notes and he'll try and create something from it?
So his gift is he can create a piece. You give him any three notes and he will write a song on the spot. So he wrote that for me. Okay, well, let me get the history. You know who he is. He's the only white guy who was ever signed to Motown.
Wow.
Yes. And he did disco. He had the old whole experience, he charted, he was one of the ones who he was around, he was signed to Motown.
Wow. As one
Yes.
of the band or as an actual artist?
As an artist.
Wow.
As a musical artist, yes. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Because he was that good of a composer.
What was it like? Because I saw your reaction. Was it really moving when you heard him
Dude,
complete?
it really messed me up because first of all, I tried to give him something that was complicated, and not so simple to do, like musically, but um to realize the passion and then the music speaks the music, it was the communication of what he played, like how he interpreted, and music is just like very powerful in my life, you know what I mean? Sound, anyway, I'm very sound sensitive.
Hmm.
So like if somebody's doing something, I'm always the one like looking. I hear the sound that's the background noises are louder than what's out front to me a lot of times. That's kind of like the way I'm wired. Like everybody be talking, and I'll hear the conversation over there, or I'll hear the sound or what's happening over there.
Wow.
That's what'll be loudest to me. Those things, and so yeah, it was just incredible, man, to have somebody that you respect write a piece for you like that, and then interpret it that way, and just it was just intense, man. I had to try to keep from almost crying. I don't even know why I was feeling like that.
Wow.
But it was just that amazing, the emotions in the music
Yeah.
and the fact that he was doing that for me, you know what I mean? Like, and then sent me the piece. I have
Uh,
it.
did he write it
You
out
know?
or what did he, how does he, what did he?
Well, the piano, he has an amazing Yamaha piano that while you playing it, it writes the music out, it records the piece,
Wow.
everything is done with, yeah.
Wow.
Everything's done. Yeah. So we became friends, man, and it's just amazing how music will connect people, you know?
Yeah. Would you do
Yeah.
anything with the piece, or is it what would you do with it?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. It's like a really serious keepsake, but I know um I want to learn it. But I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I would write to it or I don't know. It's amazing. Or just promote it as it is. It's crazy. It's I mean, if you watched it,
Yeah, yeah, I
so
did.
you
Yeah.
see and you see how it just comes together. And I think that's what it is, the power of the gift that was amazing to me. Because you'll have a gift. Like me, I can listen to a song down one time and then play it. Pretty much. If there's if there's any like integral things, two or three times listening to it, then I got it. But to see somebody go the other way and just interpret how they feel musically, but doing it for you. You know what I'm saying? Like an original piece.
So, I mean,
And he's just,
but
it's amazing.
as a producer,
Hmm.
were you musically trained, or because a lot of
No,
mid producers are okay?
no, I wasn't musically trained. I came up in the church, playing in the church, and my grandfather played piano, my mother played piano. So there was always instruments in the house. And my mother also made sure that whoever the best musicians were in church, of course,
Yeah,
that she always would expose me to them.
yeah. Where were you born and raised?
Long Beach, California, and
Oh,
raised in Carson, California, not too far in the South Bay area, between Compton and Gardena,
okay, okay.
or between Compton and Long Beach. Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine.
Yes. Okay. So I worked, I lived in LA briefly. I lived in Redondo Beach, and then I moved to Culver City. And
Okay,
yeah, and
are
then
you familiar with the South Bay area?
yeah, and yeah, I remember Long Beach, and I also know Torrance, where my office was based out of. And so I know Gardenia. I know the area.
Yeah, I'm a city right next to Torrance. The police used to sit at the borderline and pull us over as soon as we enter the city of Torrance.
I used to talk goodness.
They would sit at the border, bro, and if you didn't know how to cross that area on the main street, it's just you would you would not survive 10 minutes in Torrance without getting pulled over.
Wow,
When I was growing up, they did not want to be associated with Carson. They didn't want us over there at all.
wow.
Yeah, pretty racist. And why I say that is because um, I went there to buy a motorcycle one time to look at a motorcycle dirt bike that I wanted, when I was younger. And it was a car down the street just sitting there. Well, it was a patrol car down the street just sitting there, right? And the guy got on a motorcycle. He zips down the street 10 times. Boom, 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 showing me the bike. Hands me the bike. I get on the bike to ride. As soon as he hands me the motorcycle, the police pulls up on side of us and give us the most eerie, scary stare. Like, first of all, his eyes was bloodshot red, like he was sitting there drinking and getting high. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And he just looked at us like we didn't belong. And the guys, you know, that we were going there to see, they had to kind of like wave it off because he was looking at me and my godfather like he wanted to kill us.
Wow. So I moved in 99, so I didn't really notice that a lot might have changed from 99 to when
Yeah,
I
the
yeah.
80s, yeah, that's later on.
Okay.
But the 80s, bro, and the 70s, nah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, my dad is a perfect citizen, and the police used to stop him all the time. He drove nice cars. So it was kind of like a thing that you got used to. And my dad, he's a Vietnam vet, so he wouldn't take the disrespect at all. He was not afraid of police. He was not having it. He would not accept any disrespect from him.
I mean, how is it? I mean, we see it in films, Boys in the Hood
Mm-hmm.
and all these things. But honestly, growing up as a kid, how was it for you to experiencing so? Because we would have thought that the segregation and the whole Martin Luther King had gone past, and you're in LA, California, which is supposed to
Right.
be, free land. Everyone's loves everyone. But what was it truly like growing up as a kid there?
Well, because it was a like it was a new area. It's a suburban area. It's like Carson was all. We experienced white flight when in the '70s. I saw it myself. We moved to this neighborhood. I was a little guy. Hold on a second.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so my dad was a perfect citizen, and we're at my grandmother's house. My grandmother lived 4 blocks away. He comes around to my grandmother's house to pick us up after him and my mom went out for dinner, and then there's like 6 patrol cars that just pull up out of nowhere and just harass him just for no reason. It just happened it happened so much he had to go get a relationship with the watch commander and like with the police department. And my dad's a perfect citizen, Vietnam vet, but he would not take it. He would not. He was not nice about it. They would try to frisk and handcuff him, and he would not. He's never been frisked by the police.
But for you, then, what was that like seeing and experiencing that?
Oh wait,
No, as if for yourself, what was that like just growing up in that environment?
One more time.
Okay, yeah, I said for yourself, what was it like growing up in that environment?
Um, it was weird because I experienced it myself. We went to the mall. In the malls, like I can tell you really two things that really were damaging. One time we were walking down the street, and so the police department, they needed to I guess prove that there was a gang in the neighborhood. But it was real early, so like my neighborhood was new. So in terms of gangs, where I grew up, it was new. Nobody knew about that area. There was really no gang. What they did was we were walking down the street going to play basketball, and they gathered a bunch of us up and put us on the wall. And then they had a gang member there who was an older guy. I don't remember who it was. And they told us all, do what he's doing. And took pictures of us. They created a file on me when I was probably 12 years old.
And you had no idea what was going on?
I had never experienced. Why would we're walking down the street. I had done that for years. But this time they stopped us and put us all on the wall and took pictures of us, took our names, the whole thing. Didn't contact anybody's parents. We don't know what they were doing with the information they took. And that was one time. And then another time I was in the mall playing in the toy store like anybody else, and the police came in there and act like I didn't steal anything. I might have been rude to one of the clerks, or being a child, you know what I mean, like playing too much. And man, he snatched me up. A child. You kick a child's legs apart, put his hands behind his back, and grabbing. I don't know what's wrong with them. There's just a thing about them grabbing black males in the groin. You know what I mean? Like who does that to a child? Why would the police do that? It was no one said I had a weapon or a gun. I'm in elementary school.
I mean, how do you deal with that type? Does that then change your perspective, and do you then start to be wary of police, or
No, what it does is, well, that's one of the things it does, but what it really does is it puts you in a box that you weren't in. Like it creates a dynamic that you didn't realize existed, and yeah, it gives you disdain from the police. It lets you know how these guys can really be. So they were always, like when I hear about stop and frisk, man, I mean, everywhere we went, we was being searched all the time. I mean, just a violation anytime they felt like it.
I mean, and I guess are you talking about? So this is very early parts of, and probably the 80s.
Yeah, and
But
this is right when the gangs and drugs and stuff is starting to go, and escalate the violence. Well, the drugs came in, and then there was a season where it was everybody was getting money, and then for me, that's when it really changed with the drug culture because I saw I grew up with young drug kingpins. I grew up with friends who were taking care of their families when they were teenagers almost, like 17, 18 years old with a 500 SEL
wow.
on rims, custom, everything. It was cars, the money was everywhere. And so for me, because my family was pretty, we were pretty well off in the sense of I didn't want for anything. Um, but it made my block dangerous. And so instead of me getting into the drug side of it, I got more into the protection side of things. So I was offered pretty early at a very young age if I wanted to sell drugs. As a matter of fact, yeah, Freeway Rick, this was
Yeah.
the Freeway Rick area. So drugs was everywhere,
Wow.
money was everywhere. And the people who were coming buying the drugs were from Torrance.
The white folks. Okay.
White folks on their lunch hour.
That's where our office was. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I couldn't understand. I'm like, where are these white folks coming from? They left from over here, and now they pulling back up every day at the same times, and that's what it was. So they were the first crackheads.
Wow. But how did you keep out of
Selling
taking it?
drugs?
Yeah.
Oh, taking it?
Oh,
Using it?
and yeah, using and selling.
Oh, I never was a person I never was weak. I never was really a follower. I was always kind of like a leader. And I always felt kind of a little bit special in my mind anyway. I didn't really need drugs. I didn't understand why anybody would try. Now, and I think I saw what it would do to you.
Mm.
I had an uncle who, was an alcoholic. So I
Wow.
knew about substance abuse, when I was a child. He would come through, he would make good money. And by the time the weekend was over, he was borrowing money,
Wow.
So that was one of the things. But then it was like I said, it was a period of gain and everybody's getting money. And now you got to fight for the territory. And people are now coming and robbing for the goods. It just created a whole thing. And so where we were set like there's the 91 freeway that separates Carson and Compton.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things that happened was some guys from Compton came over and killed a friend of ours who was in the 7th grade.
Seventh grade.
For a gold chain.
Lord have mercy.
And he gave him the chain. And so I saw that. That was one thing. And then a very traumatizing incident. You can look this up. We're still trying to go into it. Investigating a friend's murder. He died on his 13th birthday. There was a hit on somebody, some grown folks, and somebody took it out on the child. So that just changed everything. He was brutally murdered in a field where Dominguez Hills College exists now. And I live on the street that he used to walk down to the store. And from that point, my only missions growing up, man, was to be able to fight. And I can remember as early as 3rd grade, I just wanted to get my hands on a gun. That's all I wanted was a gun.
Wow. When all this is happening, how's your dad trying to mentor and shield you from what was happening?
Man, we had the perfect household. Like how many people can say they never seen his father take a drink, smoke? I never heard my dad curse. He became he was a minister.
Oh.
And so, but that adds a different pressure because sometimes when your father's a pastor, people expect his children to be perfect.
Yeah.
But I'm not living in a perfect. When I come out the door, I'm going to school trying to be what I'm being brought up to be in the home, but when I get to school, you know, man, I was getting my ass kicked every day. So like a lot of people can't tell you this story because I couldn't tolerate bullies.
Mm.
And because of the discipline at home was so strict, when I went out the door, I just couldn't see somebody else telling me what to do or, you know, trying to bully me. So I fought every bully. And I used to get jumped in elementary school at recess.
Wow.
There were times I couldn't go to the yard as a child. And so I think one day I just was like, that's it. That's it. Everybody, the one thing I'm going to do is when people hear my name, they're gonna respect me. I wanted the respect. I was tired of running. I wasn't run. Every time you went outside of your borders, you was either running or, you know, getting chased, you know, or getting, you know, or the intimidation factor, you know? Imagine sitting on a bus stop watching an older guy drive by who you know killed somebody from your neighborhood and he's looking at you and checking. You know he's looking for somebody. And everybody on the bus stop got chills. We know this guy's name. He passed away too. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was no joke. He was merciless.
Wow.
He would kill a child. He was an older guy, but you know, like 19, 20, young, but you know, you knew what it was. And everybody else would be afraid. And I don't know, there was just something in me that was just like, I don't see how he's any different from me. I'm just like them. Whatever he is, I'm the same. And that's just the way I program my mind, and that's the way I started acting. And so anybody who tried me, I didn't take no L's. I can't think of an L I ever took. I can't think of a situation where I ever lost.
Wow.
By the time I was in high school, I was beating people in the head with padlocks. I was stabbing, and I got my first gun in the 7th grade, 13 years old. And I told everybody from that point, I'm the OG now.
Wow. Did that get back home? Did they know what was happening, or did they keep it away?
You know what? A lady from my dad's church told my father one time she saw me shooting in her neighborhood.
Shooting.
Yes. Yeah, we did a takeover. We decided we just gonna go to our enemy's hood and just post up in that day, anybody we seen that day, we was beating their ass. Because we was just that mad about it. So they thought we were playing, and we wasn't. It was just like, you know, you go from posturing and pretending, and then, you know, like, imagine a football player when he goes out on the field and, you know, gets that first hit or that first exciting run, and that thing is just like, once you unleash that and you realize like, hey, I don't have to take this shit. I could be the aggressor out here. If I'm the aggressor, then people will know I'm not playing. So I didn't argue. I didn't throw up gang signs. I didn't act like a gang member. I ain't do nothing. If you say you're a gang to me, that's your ass. I'm tripping on you. I don't care. You hit me up and say you a gang, you say, what's up, cuz? What's up, blood to me? Anything. I don't care. It's on. Period. That's how I felt. If you on this field, if you play this game, then I mean it's fair game. I don't care how nobody feel. And I still feel like that. If you're a gang member and you in that life, there's anything goes. You know what it is. You know you're on the field. Don't stand on the field looking that way. You're gonna get hit. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
If you put a uniform on and step on on an NFL field, you know you're gonna get hurt if you ain't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not paying attention. So that's just how I looked at it. And man, I just wasn't playing. And these guys weren't playing. I mean, they was killing guys, young guys getting, there was a period where there were Uzis on the street in LA. You know what I mean? Like the weapons that were coming through, because these people who were buying drugs from these other neighborhoods, they realized, oh, I can hawk these guns. I can take my dad's gun, Cindy. I can take my dad's gun and bring it to the hood and get dope. So it was reckless, man. Grown women, running children's sexual favors. Like we grew up like grown men. The drugs flipped the community where the adults weren't the adults. Who, if you had the sack, you was the one. You know what I mean? Like everything could be paid and taken care of with either drugs or the money or violence. So I lived right next door to a kingpin who got connected, and I used to watch his back. We would be outside like children playing, and I had everything I needed. I walked in the house one day and I could choose any gun I wanted.
Because you started off by talking about how you were this innocent child going to play and you get run over by the police, and how they started to almost bring you into this situation as a young age.
They made me a gang member. They put us on the wall and told us to throw up the same thing he was throwing up. Throw up Crip. I became a Crip that day. I wasn't no Crip, man. I was running around. I was playing with Legos. I was playing with trucks and remote control cars and shit.
But when all this is happening, as you get older, are the same police officers not coming around to say, "Oh, we need to intervene," or do they just like, "Yep, that's fine. Let you guys kill yourselves, and we just make sure you don't step into outside of the boundary"? Or
I'm gonna tell you something they did that really messed us up one day. There was a guy who we all watched. The news back then, everybody saw the same news the same time. You know what I mean? And so there was a kid in the projects who had gotten killed on the news who was like flash. Police had shot him down. We don't know if he had a gun or what he did. But what they used to do was when they transferred the police, they transferred this guy to my neighborhood. And this police told us, yeah, I'm the one who killed so-and-so. He told us. And like now I'm in y'all hood. All they did was transfer him. And so that, you like, kill for what? What do you mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, we saw this guy running around there, and it's just like all of these nuances. You have different people crossing through your neighborhood. Our neighborhood was considered a rich, more well-to-do. The homes there now are $1 million. We just sold our family home, and we still have a home there. It's valued about upwards of $1 million right now.
Wow.
And it's paid for. But Compton, they would come there because we were green. There was no organization, and the people who were putting it together were already in prison. So they called us Rich Crips, which means we were weak. But we took that and we ran with it. And now when you hear Rich Rolling, Neighborhood 60, like Nipsey Hussle used to claim, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The neighborhood got connected through prison. And man, when guys came home from prison, they were teaching us, my friend came home from a level 4 yard. And when I got that gun, he was like, no talking. Like, we don't do no talking. It's all action. So I felt like a man when I was 15 years old, 16 years old. I was very dangerous, man, as a child. Like, I ain't lying to you. If you did something to me, I would not go to sleep before I got your ass. Very dangerous. So my first 2 cases, if you do it now, you'll never get out. I had 2 separate shootings I was convicted of shooting on 2 separate high school campuses. That's how serious I was.
So you come from a house where your parents are pastor, and
Mhm.
and they regularly going to church, when they're seeing what's happening to you.
And I'm at church with a gun because I feel like somebody knows my father's a pastor. They may come to the church to try to get me. So I'm at church with the gun. I've left church and saw my enemies in traffic and got busy on them.
So you lose all fear, no thoughts
Off
of repercussions. It's just,
the fact, the respect that you get, and the when you're accepted
yeah.
and you get the respect, it's intoxicating.
Wow.
So, people fearing you when you're young, that's a big thing. Like I said, the school police came to me and he just was like, after an incident, after putting ambulances on school campuses from beating, so-called enemies, he's just like, look, just tell me who you got a problem with and I'll kick him out. He didn't want the problems because I ran, like we recruited pretty heavily because everybody was scared. We're going to school in a different neighborhood. So who's going to stand up to these guys whose neighborhood is, who's from the other side? Their bloods, we're Crips, and, their homeboys is out of school. When we come out of school, it's cars out there, like they're prepared. We're in their neighborhood. So we just had to let them know there'll be swift repercussions. Like that's what people respect. And it's still like that today. People only really they respect the repercussions, you know?
Wow. And when in the life of this, how are you seeing life outside of this? Did you ever think what happens when I'm 20, 30? Do you think beyond that and like maybe I should put things around so I get a job and stuff? Or
I was supposed to die in my teens, bro, in my mind.
oh,
And
you were fine with it.
I was gonna ride out. I wasn't, it wasn't that I was fine with it. It's just that I knew how I was and I knew what I had seen. But what I had seen was guys who were like not as intense, like when you hear about when your parents get a call from one of the sisters at the church and her son was walking home from church with the Bible in his hand in Los Angeles and he's murdered in an alley with a Bible in his hand walking home. I just couldn't not allow that to be me. I just could never see anybody doing that to me. Like that's the only thing that I could think of. Summers, I was working out for fights, trying to develop a physique. In elementary school, I boxed. I did everything. My whole homework was self-defense. How not to get your ass kicked tomorrow. That was the homework. How not to be intimidated. How not to be running and being chased. One time, these guys pulled up in a truck, and we just all started running because we knew what it was. And I ran to one of my homeboys, and he looked at me. He looked at me. He said, "You ain't got a scratch on you. Don't ever come to my door, and you don't have a scratch on you." And from that moment, that was it.
What happens to your relationship with the police then? Do you still get intimidated by them at that time the same way they happened when you were trying to buy the bike?
No, actually, shit, we was intimidating the police at that point.
Oh, so
And
roles
the reason
reversal.
why I say that is because one of them, the tough dude, he
Yeah.
was, we're children, we're teenagers. And he was kicking our ass every time he caught one of us. And all of us just vowed, man, we're gonna get him. And we was riding one day and saw him and his wife and his family unpacking their goods in another neighborhood. He moved there. And do you know within 3 days they moved, we never saw him again. We pulled up at his house.
Wow.
Sure did. Like, oh, now we know where you live at. And that went through the neighborhood. He knew that. They moved immediately. And good for him. I hope it was a super inconvenience. I hope he didn't get sleep. I hope his wife was scared. We never did nothing, but it just, you know, it's like it kind of evened out the playing field when you know where they live at, you know?
Yeah. Hey,
And still to this day, look what these bastards are doing to this day, man. They still doing this all over the country, man.
how different was say Training Day? The Denzel character was that true?
100%, 100%.
Slow.
Every hood got one of them, man, pretty much. Every neighborhood has that character.
Wow.
And that was realistic. It was shot and advised by real bloods from, you know, from over that way in the jungle. I've been there, and I've been there because, you know, people would say, look, you hear things like it's one way in and one way out, and don't go to the jungles. And that's kind of like a part of the fantasy of being real, is like, okay, I'm me, but am I me over there and over here and over there? You know, and so, you know, gun is a powerful thing, man.
Wow.
It's a game changer.
In the midst of this, how do you then change to get into music? Because people have been wondering, like, okay, if you're focusing
So
on building a repertoire.
I was locked up. I was locked up.
Oh,
I was in a juvenile camp, and my I had t- I was in a juvenile camp with 2 babies on the way.
wow.
So we living a life of grown, like we like really think we're grown as teenagers. Like seriously, like I'm doing everything that we saw the older guys do. We just wanted to duplicate that and be that, you know. And so at 17, man, had I got 2 babies on the way, you know. And so my probation officer and my case handler, she knew to let me go and be there for the birth of my son. And it gave me D. Shipp Jr.
He's more famous than you. That's an amazing story.
Right. And you know what? I think I planned it that way. I think that was always the plan. It was. Because I never really wanted the light like that. I always, you know, I know what problems they bring when you're popular, just from being a child. I mean, everything that happened, they always came. I was one of the people that always came up. Maybe he did it, you know, in that area. They would come to me about things that I didn't even know anything about. Like, but when your name's popping,
Yeah.
puts you on a list, puts you in the top 5, you know?
But
Might
you
even in the top 3 at one time.
but when he was born, they let you out. How did that change
So
you?
I got a 12-hour furlough,
Oh,
you know, under, you know, losing time, you know, right towards the end. But actually, she put her job on the line. Miss Shapiro. She put a job on the line. They told her, if you don't come back, you're out of here. And so she gave me all kind of threats, you know. I got a 12-hour furlough, went home, and I was there for the birth of my son. And that was the first time I knew what love was. It was the first time. It was the first time it's the first time I felt any value for myself. Because it comes from being devalued, you know, like through abuse, you know, adults say things to you and they don't know how it affects. But I felt worthless as a child. Like I even recall, like, it's just amazing. Like I was depressed in elementary school. I used to ditch and just listen at the bells ring and hide and then pretend I went to school when my parents came home because I was just having so many problems. Education, I came out of private school, so when my mother got pregnant with my one of my brothers, you know, of course, that changed, you know, due to driving out the city. She couldn't, like, you know, facilitate us being in private school. And so I was late getting to public school. So the first day I got there, I had fights every day when I got there.
oh.
It was a different atmosphere. I grew up in the neighborhood, but by going to private school, no one really knows you in the neighborhood because you didn't go there. So
Yeah.
I got that 3rd grade. There was all these bonds and all these things. My best friend, we talk even now, he's done 33 years in prison. From like the first person I fought back then. We're friends to this day, but he's done 33 years in prison.
Wow.
He's still in prison.
So
Hopefully he's still.
you come out of prison for the birth of your son, and then do you go back after the 12 hours?
A 12-hour furlough. Yeah.
And then what changes in your mind?
When I walked back in the dorm, all the guys was excited, like, because, for one, anybody's excited if you get a furlough. Like, that's, like, there's no chances. And my crimes of violence, so I really wasn't supposed to do that. But she just knew and felt. Her thing was, and I think I knew, was she was reading my letters between me and my girl, and she kept feeling like I wasn't going to be responsible. And so once I realized, because like, I understand people better than people because of my parents being in ministry. Everybody's been on the couch. You learn how to identify. When you're sitting in church as a musician, you can see who's hurting. You can see who's really spiritual. You can sense so many things. You can sense people in church who manipulate situations, who's there just, you learn these things as a child that I don't think most children knew. I got treated as an adult because of my talent. So keep in mind, I'm 10, 11 years old playing the organ like a grown man.
Wow.
So when me and my girlfriend walk in church, or she's in church, when we're kids, children, people move seats so that we could sit together. That's how I got treated in that environment because of the gifting. So when they say your gift will make room for you,
wow,
it's a two-edged sword. It will, but there's also eyes on you all the time, and there's also always these high expectations. So between the demand of that, but and with the influence of my mother and my grandfather, I was like this guy carrying around this secret gift that nobody knew about. And one day at school, I played the piano. It's just like everybody knew, but that was just my thing. Music was just my outlet. That's like the world I lived in. I tell somebody now, I'm like, you look at all the technology that we have now. I used to hear something at church, and a 40-minute ride home, I'd have to remember that, and I'd run in the house and get straight on the organ and play what I heard. So I'm sitting in the car the whole time while they're talking. I've always been an introvert in my head because I'm trying to remember what I heard because I want to play it as soon as I get home.
Wow.
So the whole drive, that's all I'm doing is, playing. And I would stick it until I got it. And I had great mentors musically, that would give me opportunities to play in front of, large crowds of people.
But then how did you mix your love of music?
Oh, so let me get to so yeah, so after my son was born and I got back to the camp, like I'm the guy, I'm a man. I'm 17 years old with a son, you know what I'm saying? And so I just told the guys, like, man, I'm banging a different gang now, dog. That's it. Don't call me, don't miss me with all of that. Like, I was pretty stern about it. Like, don't even come at me with it at all. I don't want to hear nothing about it. I got a son to take care of. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody thinks my son's gonna be, a disaster. He's not. He's not gonna go through any of the things that I went through. He didn't. I was just on. I wanted him to have a better life to me, and he does. My grandchildren, my grandsons are, and my daughters are living an amazing life.
And that's
Healthy.
That's because of the choice you made that day coming back in. That okay.
I told them that's it. I'm done. I got a son. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a grown. I felt, I always, how when you're a child you want to feel grown, but hold on,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Progress.
Man. Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm pressing the right button. I ain't tech savvy this morning. I'm still waking up.
That's right.
But yeah, and so at that time I just didn't want him to go through it. And I'm like, honestly, I just felt like our parents, because they didn't have the knowledge, he didn't know how to protect me. My dad was like, everybody's big brother or an example like an uncle because he had fast cars. My dad had flashy cars, you know, nice paint jobs. He painted his own cars like Pearl. You know, he's a car guy.
Mm.
You know, and so you know, somebody's gonna wipe his car off every day before he leaves. I'm talking about every day he's gonna wipe that car off. And it attracted all of the older guys from my neighborhood. You know, but yeah, when I went back, I knew I had the responsibility, and but he didn't understand what was happening when the gangs came in. And most of the parents didn't. They didn't understand what was happening. You know, and I just always felt like because I had been in life, my son would never go through it. And so I just made a choice, like, I know how close I came to throwing my life away, you know? And so I just never wanted that for him. And it was everything I needed in terms of a good reason to change my life, a good reason to tell my neighborhood and my homies that, you know, if you can't accept this, then I don't know what to tell you.
And what did you end up doing? What did you get a job at Kmart, or what did you?
Oh no, I can't actually. I came home, bro, and I got a job at Pepsi and one at Coca-Cola. And Big West, who actually was mentoring Suge in the business at that time, Suge Knight.
Oh.
I was in the garage. I spent all my buddies was running out, so all I wanted was a studio. And a friend of mine who lived across the way in my neighborhood, he had a studio. And you know, it was summertime. And so
what year was this? What year was this? So we can try to get the music that was out around then.
This is 87.
So NWA are out?
NWA. And that's ironic that you said that because the first musical connection was NWA. And it was a guy, CPO, who MC Ren. MC Ren used to come to my neighborhood to the studio.
Okay.
From NWA. And actually he came to the neighborhood. He found out who I was the right way. They was rappers. I was really in the streets. And so but they was running. Summertime came in the studio. We all had been working, and then summertime came. Everybody else wanted to play, so I had the studio to myself because it was girls, money, cars, all these events, parties. I stayed behind. I spent 3 months in the studio by myself, bro. And when I submitted those songs, Big West was at Solar Records under Dick Griffey. And there was a group that got signed that Suge helped put together called Times 3, and that was my first project. And from that point, it was just I got paid for doing music like that. I got placements of records and had access to Dick Griffey, rest in peace, Mr. Griffey, let us run around. He let me run around Solar Records like I was his nephew. And and guess who was in the studio then? Who was signed there? Babyface.
Oh, yes.
DLC, yes.
Oh, okay. Just before we get to that, you didn't tell us how you actually, because I know you play the organ, but then how did you learn to work the studio? I mean,
oh, you know what, man? I was breaking tracks when I was 14 years old. I was taking a tape recorder and play keys on it.
Okay.
And then play a tape recorder and another tape recorder. I was, you know, the quality is.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it was just a thing of mine. I used to go read magazines. I would spend hours in the Guitar Center. I would beg anybody with money to buy me equipment. It was like somebody asking for equipment was like somebody else asking for food. Like if you had a drum machine, bro, I would really like be at your house.
Wow.
And you know, parents, you know, it was all people, you know, everybody wants to play music. So there was all these people who had like instruments and stuff that they would sit in the corner. And if I came to your house and there was a keyboard in the corner, I'd try to buy it for me or, you know, work a deal, you know, like, and so, same thing with the crack era. My friends would get instruments and give it to me. So my boy, he was like, Meech, you want an electric piano? My room is only one. You know how big an electric piano is, right? I had one in my bedroom.
Wow.
with drum machines, mics, everything when I was a teenager, and I would be in there making recordings. Yeah. And
Oh,
so early, man, I was trying, but it wasn't R&B, it was gospel.
oh, even when you're running the streets, you're still making gospel tracks.
It was gospel.
Okay.
I used to be on the organ in church, man, with a gun in my pocket.
Oh God. And so but when you went into the studio and then you created, how did they give you the Big West? How did he know you could produce and say, can you, let's see what you can do, or
Oh
what?
yeah, songs I wrote. By then I had sharpened it because, having gospel groups, it teach you how to write new material and, perform it, teach it, perform it, create it. And there was no recordings, you just learn it like an old band would do, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I just translated, but it's so funny how some of those early songs that I wrote, it sounds like gospel,
Mm.
but because there's not much difference in gospel music, blues, soul, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of difference in it, but yeah, man, that it was all about making the transition. And then when NWA hit, you started hearing music. It hadn't really hit me yet, the bug to create this kind of stuff, but I was having these interpretations, like, you just interpret it through my eyes. And I knew it was good. It was just good. It was exceptional because of who I was around. It's like a child being able to watch Kobe Bryant work out.
Wow.
That's how I felt my mother did me with the best musicians. One of the musicians who Matthew Burrell and John Black, these two guys. John Black, though, who he left the church and ended up with the Gap Band for a while, for a period. He's a pastor. But we all came out to church the same thing. And so, when you hear that back in the day, it's like bad. Like, I'm hearing everybody like John left the church. He, man, drugs, alcohol, women, what I mean? And I'm saying, yes. I want to be like that. Like, because it's like, it's like a guy who has talent who just shoots on the court. Like, dude, go get the money.
Yeah.
That's what I've been saying. And like, guys, that's how I felt. If I'm really good, then I need to get paid for this. If I'm really good, then I'm as good as these guys who get paid to do this.
Mm.
And so as a child, it was just like, I don't want to be forgotten. How do I make a name for my only goal, and I tell people this all the time, I reached my goals very early in terms of what my life goal. My life goal was that my name would go down in history for what I do. That's all I ever want. I don't want anything more than that. I want to be known, and I want my name to live after I'm gone.
Wow.
For doing music. I think I did it.
Yeah, no, definitely. But then when you did the when NWA came out, being that you grew up in that environment, and then they are talking about the streets and the police, did it resonate to you? Did you think, wow, these guys are, or did it seem, what did it feel like hearing, his Dre and the group producing and making?
Easy rest in peace used to come to my neighborhood in a clean 850. And I was seeing, and it just was like, wait a minute, how is he driving this car and getting this money? Like, that's really money in this, And but it was so far-fetched to do music back then, man. It was like, I tell people now, what a person can do in 5 minutes, it would take a whole 2 days to do now, I mean, back then.
Wow.
Just in terms of, even if you did a demo, I had to drive way to Hollywood. Dude, I didn't even have gas money to get out there. You know what I mean? We'd be on film. I'd get there and have to ask Big West or Suge for money to get home.
So the stuff you did for the 3Ts, was that
Times three.
Times three.
Mm-hmm.
They were signed to Solo, or were they signed to Big West? Or
They were actually signed to Big West, but they were signed to I think we did that project under Columbia or Sony.
Okay.
They were signed to Sony. So
Okay.
what it was because I got the history years later from Big West. And it's interesting how all of this correlates to kind of like how we are. Um, when Dick Griffey went there and when black uh men started becoming entrepreneurs and becoming, label heads and starting labels, they used to get pressed by white goons, gangsters.
Wow.
And so they had pulled up on Dick Griffey one time, and Dick had heard about Big West, this strong guy on Venice Beach that was picking up 500-600, bench pressing 500-600 pounds, like nothing. And he went and got him, and West put together a team. And that's what kind of like where this thing comes from the industry that people don't know about having a goon squad. It doesn't come from us. It comes from the white guys saying you can't have a label and do business in this town, or your artists get hot and they come and say, I'm taking your artists, I'm taking your royalties. And they would bring gangsters in somebody's office with baseball bats and smash these small boutique labels. And so that's where that energy comes from. Because anytime you're getting money, I just tell people that, you don't think you're a gangster and you don't think you got to deal with gangsters. Just get rich in America and see what happens. The sharks are coming. You could have gotten your money, obtained your money the most legal ways, but if the streets know and somebody gets wind of it, Clarence Avon's wife got, murdered in Beverly Hills. Like, it can happen. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Condolences to the Avon family continually. Clarence Avon is somebody who's very influential. He gave me a choice when I came home because I took demo tapes to him early on too. We just used to hit labels. I just wasn't afraid, to go and really like, I want to do this thing, and if you were my friend, you was going to help me, do it. And so anybody who had any type of insight, I would just gravitate to it. And there was a lot of things going on during that time. All in the Same Game was happening with Michael Concepcion. And so that's how he ended up being my manager because, I saw what he was doing and he heard me and he was like, man, you should be. He told me, he gave me access. All I wanted was a studio. He had a studio. That's all I was looking for. You got a studio? Okay, cool. I want to come use it. And, he was like, listening to what I was doing. He liked it. He was getting into the music. And he just was, man, you need to make music like Teddy Riley. I'm like, what? Like, why would I try to be like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't make sense to me. But when I ended up in Virginia Beach.
No, before you get there though, because you're from the West Coast and Dre, NWA and Quick and those guys are making music. So why and
Quick wasn't necessarily owned then. I don't
okay.
think I know. Oh, you know what? Well, yeah, because we got in the music business kind of like around the same time.
Okay.
Because we rub shoulders a lot,
Yeah. But then if the West Coast was coming up, especially after NWA and Ice Cube moves out and stuff, why what kind of music were you doing? Was it that G-Funk you were doing?
You know what, honestly, I didn't like it.
Oh.
It wasn't intentional. It wasn't musical enough for me. It was dope. I liked it as a listener, but I never really tried to recreate that until I got to Death Row.
But what were you doing then? What type of music were you doing?
More like a New Jack Swing.
Okay.
Without knowing it,
Oh.
just listening and following, what I was hearing. And see, here's the thing. When I was in camp and we got to the grad dorm, there's a thing called the grad dorm where you get these extra privileges. And, there's a group of guys who's going home. So you get, you got TV, you got all these access, you come and go as you please type deal, and a friend of mine, he connected with the chaplain. And so he convinced the chaplain to let him bring a keyboard in and a drum machine. She took to us, and man, she really just really cared about us, and we convinced, them to let us bring. He convinced them to bring a keyboard and a drum machine. His father was involved in guy David Brooks. His father was involved with music, and he wanted his son to do music. So he had bought all these things before he had got locked up, and so they allowed us to bring in the camp. So when people would be at the yard, I would be making tracks. I was already Teddy, little Teddy, when I was 17. You know what I mean? Like, in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing it, and I'm learning how to, create sounds, drum sounds, just learning, just studying. I mean, it's like my whole existence was I have to be able to do this music. But that's how early it started. And
Okay.
at 17, so when I came home, it was like I had all this material that I had wrote, and I wasn't gonna stop doing it because it kept me out of trouble while I was locked up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it gave me privileges because it separated me from everybody else. I go to a piano and just start playing, and it's like, people saw the talent.
Yeah.
And there was people who were saying you could be something, you could do something. And so I always had this thing that maybe, it's almost like I feel it isn't fair, in some situations, where even like friends of mine, they always say, well, you had a son and you had music. And I'm like, no, I just took what I had and I just knew I wanted to be something. But
Yeah.
I applied myself. Like, I didn't just get this. Like, I didn't go to sleep. I would go to bed in the morning. I'd be up all night playing music
Wow.
and listening and studying the music and watching musicians. And anywhere there was musicians or any live music, I'm just going to stop. I still do that to this day. If musicians are playing somewhere, I cannot pass them by without taking a minute to absorb
Wow.
what they're doing. I saw a group of Korean women in a drum circle yesterday, and it was just like amazing.
Wow.
So I'm a music junkie. Like,
Yeah. So you mentioned that Big West introduced you to Diff Griffin. Now, for those of the outside, we heard about the notorious side of Dick Griffey, from that point of view. But it's very interesting how you clear things up, saying, because we all know about Gene Griffin, about how he terrorized things on the East Coast. But what you did is it's a play of an explanation. And look, if they didn't get their own muscle, they'll get muscled out.
if you
And
didn't
so,
have muscle, you would get muscled out. It's just what it was. And I didn't even understand that until we got in it. And you start seeing the nature of the business. Like, I mean, man, it's a lot of guys who get pressed in this business. It's very dangerous to become successful publicly, versus a businessman that starts a business. And, if you're an artist and you're known, everybody knows, like, there's a possibility that you have money and you have access to money. And, the limelight. Everybody wants to, like, hit you along. And so, you're going to clubs, you're going to different cities, you're going on tours, you're crossing paths with everybody, and it's very dangerous. My first music convention, I won't say any names, but I witnessed a shakedown right there, and I was thrown into it, and it went something like this. What you doing in my city? Oh man, the guy's like, huh? He's like, and this guy was somebody. He was like somebody in the business at this music convention in LA at Universal's the big hotel. I can't think of it. But and he's pressing this guy and I'm there, but he knows I'm street. And so he tells the guy, you gotta pay taxes. First time I ever seen this. He like, taxes, motherfucker. And I'm like, huh? And so the guy the threat is made, basically, like, if you don't break yourself, the dude told him, I'm gonna break your jaw. And so I'm the child. I'm watching these two older men do this. And in the midst of it, he puts the money down. The guy looks at and he looks at me and he says, "Meech, is that enough?" And I just knew what the play was, and I was like, "Nah."
What?
Like, no. No, because I knew they wasn't looking to give him no mercy. And so that's kind of like in the business, the West Coast was not taken seriously musically. And a lot of guys would come here from New York and other places, and they would get protection out here and then not take care of the guys that was protecting them.
Oh.
Or they would get in a jam. You come out here and something happened to you. Now you looking and you look out for a guy. I mean, this is how all this happens, because you're flashy and you make yourself a target, and then you get connected with somebody like a Big West, and he's protecting you or he's doing for you, looking out for you, and then you come back and pass through and don't call. This is where this whole check-in started years ago.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So if I come to your state and I'm telling you I got a problem, you come check on me and pull up and make sure I'm good. It's like, why wouldn't you continue to do that? Don't make me put myself on the line for you and think you can hand me something and that's it. I put my life on the line for you.
Wow.
And see, I experienced that with even people now. It's like, people know in my family, they know if they call me, they know I'm gonna deal with it. But I have to explain to people all the time. You create these instances with somebody and you get into it with somebody and you expect me to put my life on the line, and you think you can do one thing for me and that's done? Can you give me my life back? No. So this it's really like it's a lifetime loyalty. And honestly, the guys from my neighborhood, although I don't participate in, they're my family. So you don't get to do that and then walk off when somebody's looked out for you, protected you, or got in the streets with you when it was on.
So knowing things like that, so the reputation we have Dave Griffey, was it more of a fact that he had to give this a persona to keep him so people can think, yeah, if not, people
Dick
could.
Griffey was a college-educated man who was slick. You could tell he was very sophisticated. He came here with money when he came to start that label. But after getting here and the Dick Griffey we know about, I mean, I've never seen him be anything but like a solid alpha male. Not weak. If somebody got smacked, he'd look, stand there, watch what was going down, and he'd go get in the car, go get in his limousine with his driver and be like, "I'm going to Africa. I'll be back 3 weeks." You know what I mean? I mean, he was just balling. He was really Black Boule.
Wow.
But that thing that they're trying to blame on, or that thing that people don't understand, it really does come from racism. Our people don't understand it. We're doing it internally, but it started with white supremacy and racism. My dad wanted to be a Black Panther. My father talks about how he didn't even speak to a white person until he was an adult. They went to the back door and you know what I mean? Like, just all of those things, like how they didn't drop mail, in Black neighborhoods, just how he witnessed the police pull up and just kill a young man and told him, "I'm gonna kill the whole family if y'all don't bring him out the house." And they brought him out the house and then killed him. Just in Miami, Florida, in Georgia. My mother's from Birmingham, Alabama. This is where there's bombings and things that happen.
Yeah.
So just ingrained in us, there's this sense of hostility already, but it just got redirected, towards each other in our communities.
Wow.
When we really were just supposed to be protecting ourselves against, racism and white supremacy. That's really where the tension comes from.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, when I moved to the States in
The
'92,
Crips, I'm
I was,
sorry, and I
yeah,
want
go
to say
ahead.
the Crips is just the bastard of the Black Panthers.
Oh,
That's all it is. The Crips were supposed to be like Black Panthers, but they couldn't be because there was no leadership. Community Revolutionary in Progress. CRIP, that's what it stands for.
yeah, no, I didn't realize that. And I when I moved to the States, I lived in Selma, Alabama, and hearing the history of what was happening. I lived there for like 3 years, and it was because as I said, I didn't experience that level because my parents are Nigerian. I grew up in England, and so you don't really get to see and understand the history of years and years of all that stuff. So when I moved to the States, it was all new to me and stuff. Um, but for yourself, then here you are with Dick Griffey. You said Suge was also you already knew Suge early on before the rest of us knew him from as
Y'all know what that, I'm sorry, y'all know what that soft top mean, right? They know what that soft top means, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said
For me,
you met Suge back early before we knew him as Death Row Suge.
way before that, bro. Suge, yeah, I was performing and doing shows, and Suge was like running through the hallways, pushing everybody down.
As a footballer.
Like a line, like a football player. I mean, like in clubs, he was like just moving bodies. He always managed to get in a fight anytime we went out. And he was bodyguarding the DLC.
Oh.
So that was a lot of the connection too. So he
Oh.
kept me in the loop. But he introduced me to Dr. Dre as a gangster, as a childhood hitter. He didn't, that was the mistake that I wish I could fix, is the way he introduced me to Dre. Yeah, it was more street than music.
Oh, so he didn't let Dre know that look, this is a producer musician. He was like, yeah, this guy knows the streets and we can.
Yeah, this my little homeboy here. He from the other side. He a Crip. This my little homeboy, like he said it like that, but
And Dre was sort of like that. That sort of put he just did. Uh,
absolutely.
wow.
Hmm.
Did you
But
did
but I would be in the studio with them all the time because a friend of mine had a deal, like him and Ren was working together. So when they went into work, we would be at Donovan's, of all places, you know the story, in Torrance.
Yeah.
You saw the movie.
Wow. I mean, for yourself, then, when you did see Dre, did you, as a producer, what did you think about his skill as a producer when you're in the same studio?
I respected it because he was doing records. I knew he had a skill set I didn't have, but as a musician, Dre can't do anything with me musically that I can't do. I just, like I can do whatever I can hear, I can do.
Mm.
And it's so funny because years later, dog, I'm in the studio with Ice Cube, Dre, and Tupac and Roger Troutman.
Oh, wow.
And Dre's like, Meech, listen at this. And the same guy turns on California Love. Oh, yeah. And I knew again, there's another mark I gotta hit. Like there's still some room left. You know what I mean? Like even though you think you're there, you're not. You know what I mean? There's always a pursuit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
But the why did you then, when if you already had something with Solar, but then who could, I mean, apart from times three, I mean, who else could you have worked with in at that stage before you
oh,
moved?
there was a few other artists like this girl Dina. Anybody who had deals, coming into the business, then a lot of times you did records on people who, it was just they had budgets. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times back then labels were writing off artists. You know what I mean? For tax purposes. You know what I'm saying? It was
Mm.
just or, you know, but Suge was like, oh, I was in Virginia. You know, the music business to me was just realer on the East in terms of, you know, being able to put out records and follow in a record business that made sense. The West didn't have that, you know, in our era.
At that time, this is before sort of Death Row had established.
Right. Yeah. And so that's what we were trying to do is like, why are we not being heard? And why, you know, like we got our own music out here that's hitting locally, you know, and guys making music. There was always guys making music, but there was really no outlets.
So how did you know, a lot of us have heard of Mike Conception. Teddy talked about him a lot. Who was Mike, and what kind of person was he? Who is for you at that stage?
Mike is one of the bravest men I ever met, and one of the, you know, just real, man. He took to me, and we're family, man. You know, it's crazy because he just didn't want he didn't want to see nobody go through what he went through. And that lecture is a very like real lecture. When he's like, I don't want to hear a sad story, you know, I don't want to hear what you think the streets are. You know, I'm telling you this is what you need to do. I've been there, you know, I know that inside out. He took, first of all, just to show me who he was, he took me to every hood in LA.
He can get without no problem.
Man, in a convertible Mercedes, a custom convertible Mercedes, all white. In the every project, everything he took me to, man. The only person that's ever done that.
Wow. He could cross lines. Were you afraid when he's crossing lines and you're thinking about?
Nah, because I had already done it myself.
Okay.
You know, I'd already like, you know, graduated to a place where, you know, I'm gonna make it home like I am without a scratch. And so to show me, he had to show me who he was, you know, like, and he just telling me like, man, that's another way to do this. Like when he was doing All in the Same Game. Actually, it's so funny because I was not with no peace treaty. I'm watching him shoot the video, and I was just critical and very negative. Embarrassingly never. I was just immature, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, man, I'm not being cool with no bloods and no enemies. I ain't doing it. But his family is on both sides. And so the gentleman everybody knows as Top Dog, to us, he's Dude Dog. That's the family name. That's that's the name before the business. Top Dog, TDE, Top Dog Entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a blood. And because of his, you know, him and Mike being family, he just started calling me nephew, you know? And we became like brothers, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's just interesting how our neighborhoods don't beef, even though they would normally beef.
Yeah.
But, you know, you build these relationships that are like family, and you start realizing like, these guys are just like me. I thought they were like dinosaurs or something. I never humanized an enemy in life, you know, like they just, I didn't realize, you know, these are brothers, you know, until this one moment happened. And this is crazy. I really want to get this on record and say this for somebody who might want to see this. I'm on a visit in Las Padrinas, Central Juvenile Hall. There's a guy, his name was ringing in the streets like mine was. I had been getting up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning trying to catch this dude catching the bus. I had been looking for, he had a name. I had been looking for this dude. Well, he committed a murder. He got caught for it. He was locked up. I was locked up at the same time. He's sitting there on a visit. I'm sitting there on a visit. We really supposed to get out because I know who he is, but, you know, I don't want to disrespect my parents and have them, you know, standing in line for a visit and get there and say I got into an altercation. You know what I'm saying? So I want to have my visit, and after my visit, I'm like, as soon as this visit is over, I'm taking off on this dude, right? Guess what happened, bro? My mom walked in, his parents walked in, and I'm looking, and my mom is like, my mother and his mother hugging each other, greeting, kissing. And his dad is shaking hands, hugging.
What?
They forgot we were there, and they talking, and she looked, she said, Roy, is that my mom? Little Roy, is that you? Dude, and it was just like, wait a minute. I was trying to do something to this guy. I would have hurt his family. His mom is hugging me and kissing me and telling me how much she loves me. And dude, I was stalking her son for weeks trying to catch his ass. And that's when I started waking up.
Wow.
Like this, like we gotta really know who's who. How can you just call somebody an enemy just because they live over there? Like our parents are all friends. A lot of us. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that was the first time I had that experience. But it was an eye-opener.
Wow.
I was like, wow, really? And me and him, we never was cool, but we always gave each other that nod. We were family and enemies at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, what I guess there were times when those lines were sort of pushed aside when it came to business, because you had, someone like Snoop, you had on death row. So did everyone just say, "Oh, well, when we're making money, we put all the stuff aside and just focus on the business at hand"?
And that's why Suge gets such a bad rap, man, because honestly, dude, like what he did and what that did for us, it was the first time we were in the building and Bloods were actually protecting me. Like they're protecting the studio. They were there, they were facilitating. And I got to know these guys just on a different level, and cool with them to this day. And that was the first time, man. It was like, let's take this energy and do something with it. And here we are feeding our families. Everybody's taking care of their children and, benefiting. We driving nice cars. We making money. Like, and you just realize like poverty and like when you don't have a plan or guidance, that's what creates these things. When you don't have a way and a lane. And that's why I always have mixed feelings when people talk so negatively about Suge. I have mixed feelings about it because he was somebody I could respect. And he vowed to help me get out the streets. And he was one of the people that, helped me make the conversion. He did. He was there. He was like a big brother.
Yeah, I think from a outsider's point of view, and I can only just speak from an outsider's point of view, I think the first point was when Dre leaves, and then the stoking up of the beef with East Coast, and then Pac and Biggie dying. So there was a lot of like, well, who's the common denominator? And so Suge, that's why from an outsider's point, because we don't know him personally.
He's the fall guy.
Yeah, so that's what we saw, is that he's the
leader. But all of the problems weren't his. Nobody was messing with him. Nobody was pushing him around. Even with Dre had a situation, that had to be, like that he needed support in. Is when you go in NWA and you're broke. You wrote all the hit records, and he really didn't have nothing. I remember seeing Dre come get money, from Mike, borrowing money. Not to put his business out there, but he's good now. But that's just That's just what I remember. I pulled up one day at Mike's house. He's there. And Mike is talking to him and just telling him, like, everybody was telling him how big he should be. He was learning, what he had done and just, not receiving what you should get for what you did. But so Suge was like a savior of sorts.
Mm.
He was the one who was making sure we got what we were supposed to get.
Yeah.
It's just everybody had problems. So if you came to him and you're part of the family now, you're like, man, I got a problem with these guys, or these guys in my neighborhood are doing this, he was gonna try to address it. He was gonna try to facilitate it. He was, but it's just the bad part about it is I think where he went, what happens, and I just put myself in his shoes is imagine you make someone's dreams come true. You're not necessarily a music guy, you're a muscle guy. He's a football player.
Mm.
And the other part is football players are built a little different. He was very aggressive, and very competitive.
Mm.
So he just kind of like translated that over into the business. But when people come to you with problems and then you work their problems out, or somebody come to you and say, I need this, and you do all of these things, and it just was funny to me that the weakest guys would commit the worst infractions. Like, how you take this kind of money from someone and then act like you're not going to do the work? Or how are you in the studio and a guy puts you in the studio and then you order, from rental companies or something, equipment, or you taking our studio, you stealing in our studio, like just, it was always things that had to be checked. And I think that's where it got out of control, because everybody's calling all day with their problems. I think he just became a problem because everybody dumped their problems on him. Honestly, that's how I feel. I seen him do a lot of stuff, and I respect Snoop for the things that he's done in recent years, which is, they resolved that between them two, which is cool because, man, you had a murder beef. Had he not did what he did, you would be in prison just like any other label would have just let it happen. But he got him the best attorneys, put together the best, type of defense, and Snoop never went to prison. Or his homeboy, Sean Dog, my homeboy, never, you know what I'm saying? He took care of everybody. And so I just think people forget the good deeds, the Mother's Day's events, the Christmas time when we gave away gifts. We did a lot of good stuff, but it was just the street element is something you won't escape. If you play in the streets will win.
Yeah, but then there's also the areas of the publishing side, the business side where Snoop says, "Well, I wrote all these songs, I didn't get any, I wasn't paid for." And most artists, I would not just on Death Row, but most artists had that issue. Gene Griffin did the same with Teddy, and others would just you'd sign off not knowing what's yours and getting your publishing and stuff. And I think that was an area that
that's not what they would do. I'm gonna tell you what they would do. They'd offer you a little bit of money and say, "Hey, I can give you this. I'm gonna give you some money for this as an artist or producer. And oh, by the way, there's another 35, or, I don't know what them guys, but for me, that was an offer made from my publishing. And I just knew what it was. And I told David Kenner, I'm not signing that. Try to get me to sign it right now. I'm like, I'm not signing that. He's like, well, if you want to check. So that's how a lot of people do it. The money's there. Most guys from the studio do $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on the table for your signature. Most of them sign it right on the spot.
What stopped you? How did you know?
Well, I was already in the business by then. I'd already worked with Teddy by then and had management and knew the process of getting a contract and having a manager say, seeing a markup. So like even now, if somebody gives me a contract, I know how to mark a contract up. You know what I'm saying? I know how to adjust it so that it fits what I really want. I know how to read it so I understand what's going on, you know?
Okay, okay.
Just from years of reading contracts
And
and
knowing
getting
your worth.
tired. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, you learn how to look and see what should be there, you know, what's not there. You know, even with my son, I was his manager, you know, into his acting. If you look who's listed as his manager, is me, you know, with taking him into the business. And they gave us a contract and I marked it up and sent it to our attorney. And he was like, oh, yeah, well, pretty much, yeah, you got it. But it's just after years and years of, because that's the whole thing of looking like, man, I got to know business. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, if you do music, you have a level of intelligence that's brilliant. If you're good, if you're exceptional. So if you apply that to other things, it applies. It's the same thing. It's all about, you know, applying it and having that thirst for it, you know, that eagerness or that zeal to really understand business and to do things like even with me in recent years. Oh, shout out to Soulja Boy. Go get that S Boy by Draco. But that's one of my products. I should have it here. Oh yeah, I do. Hold on. Let's do this. Man.
Okay, what is that? Is that
That's
cologne?
mine. It's Draco, Soulja Boy's cologne, S Boy by Draco. Go get this. 13 notes. It's compared to all of the top brands.
Wow.
This is what I do now. Go get that. And we have S Boy for men and for women. S Boy by Draco.
So what is it that you do? What's your part?
I'm an owner. I'm a partner.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was I met some business people through my attorney, and he was just saying like, music's cool, but I want to show you how to get money. You're gonna make so much money outside of music. You can do music for fun. Look at that. I didn't graduate high school. Hey.
You got I did see it on your Instagram. I didn't know what it was. So okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. How did Mike get you out of LA to Virginia? And why did that happen? Why didn't he?
Because Teddy was having some issues, and Teddy. So, I mean, let's just talk about it. Mike was fascinated with. He's a music lover, and he's fascinated with anybody. I think he really wanted to do music. Mike has actually did tracks before. You know, working with other producers and, you know, telling them, you know, what to do or, you know, and do it like this. So he just had that mentality, man. I think for him, it was a search of where does he go from where he used to be at hustling versus, you know, and pimping and that street lifestyle. How do you fix that? And so in those circles, you got music and you got, you know, entertainment. And at the time, I guess Teddy and Gene were breaking up, and I know Teddy was in a horrible deal with Universal, and Mike was influential in his freedom for that situation. And so the give and take was, you know, I got a producer who I think is dope, and I want you to mentor him. And because I had some choices at the time. I didn't know where I was going. It was Gerald Levert, rest in peace.
Oh.
I had action working with LA and Babyface. I had action at working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Clarence Avant wanted to send me out there.
Wow.
And Mike was like, Teddy was killing everything, you know, he was the streets, he was what was fresh, it was new, it was young, it was, you know. And so that was Mike who was the one who set me in a direction.
So what year did you move out there?
I went there, I believe, 91.
Okay. So what about your son? Did you take the family with you?
He was out there, yeah. Lil Meech was out there in the studio. Lil Meech was out there in the studio telling him what to do. Like he was a producer when he was a child.
So around 91, so you must have known Mucho and Sprague.
Yeah, my guys, man. Mucho, man. That's my boy. That's my cousin, man. I love him. Bragg, I love him, guys. Because they was just there and our stories was different. you know, but we had these meetings and we just became a team. And man, anytime you walk down the hallway, if Sprag was in the studio, it was beating. If Mucho was in, it was beating. If Ty was in, it was
Right.
beating. You know what I mean? If Pharrell was in, they was coming around. They were the Neptunes. They were a group. So
Yeah.
he wasn't so much he wasn't one of our producers yet,
Mm.
but musically, he was in the building. All Star, people like that.
Rodney?
Rodney Jenkins. Like, man, it was like music heaven, like, and competition, but we're a team.
Yeah.
And I think I got probably one of the first hit records on Bobby.
Yeah. So what was the first thing that you worked on when you got there?
I was there to do Tammy Lucas.
Oh, okay. I've interviewed Tammy, and what happened to her project? Because did you do any work on it?
We wrote together. We was in the studio a few times. We met, and you gotta imagine, man, like her voice is so. Her
Yeah,
voice.
yeah.
I want to work with her so bad, but at that time, unfortunately, I think I think the industry was still in a place where they wanted a certain look, like, and there were other things. That was Teddy's project. There's just other things that just got pushed to the side, and I think a lot of artists didn't understand like how to maintain that position of gratitude with a producer who's a big time producer, and how to wait and how to facilitate. It becomes very frustrating when you're waiting on your project to be done and then it doesn't happen in the time frame and that kind of thing. So I went there. That's what he was trying to build the camp. That's what he built the camp for, was because he has so much work. Like, dude, everybody sent demos. I mean, he's the remix guy. We remixed everybody's records. You know what I mean? Look what he did for SWV.
Yeah.
That was just amazing who all came through there. Any artist who was anybody, they had to. I mean, being in the studio and seeing these little bitty girls walking in, Lisa Left Eye looking at me, and I'm like, little girl, you know what I mean? Like, watch out these big pretty eyes. But I didn't even understand the music. Their video was out and Teddy was going crazy over it. I'm like, that's whack. And I was so wrong.
Okay.
And so I just had a lot to learn. Not to be judgmental about something that you don't hear, but you have to know how to judge how it's going to make everybody else feel and what it is. And then the history of music. He had so much history. I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music openly in the house. So all of that education, I didn't get until I got there about all of this outside music. What hip hop was really about, and how you study the old music and how you can bring that into the new, and how you sample or recreate, or how you emulate sounds in music. He was instrumental in, enlightening me to that.
I mean, I heard Terry Lewis say that Teddy was one of the most technical people he'd ever seen when it comes to programming and stuff like that. And John Marie talks about how he was probably the best engineer mixer, better than anyone else. I mean, was he just all around just
Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, I mean, pick one. LeBron James, just pick one. That's who he was musically.
Wow.
Who changed the game? I mean, whoever changed the game in any arena, dude, when I realized he did the show, Dougie Fresh, I felt so stupid. I'm like, I wouldn't, and when I saw him work one time, and I don't know if anybody's told the story, but I only need to see Teddy work once. I was ready to go home the first time I seen him. I was there when the studio got wired up. So see, I don't think anybody there had a manager with the influence that mine did with Teddy. He ended up managing Teddy at one point.
Yeah, we knew about him, Mike. That's why I knew about Mike. Yeah.
So I had carte blanche when it came to things like certain things the guys were dealing with, I wasn't, you know. But I I was there and he kept telling me he was at the house. I get down there and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, we're not even doing no music, not understanding our music life. He's got the house on the beach. I was in a room for 2 days, like a day when I got there, and Mike called him. He pulled up in a convertible Benz, something like this one, a two-door. And man, by the time we got to the studio and it got wired up, I had he did a track right in front of me. And I didn't know the energy that you put into music when you create like that. I was more like a straight face type of guy. I wasn't in the studio like enjoying it. It was the first time I seen somebody like willing in the studio. These references I give were like, you know what I mean? Like he was producing, but he was willing, you know, it was on one wheel with the handlebars crossed with one hand off, you know, like he was just clowning.
Wow.
And it was slapping I watched him construct it from, and I still remember that track to this day, man. And after I saw him, how he constructed the drums, the intricacies of these sounds that he would use, the samples that he would creating samples, the technical side of it, using Pro Tools, creating on Digital Performer, having rack mounts of stuff, all wired together, you know, running a fully automated studio. Like, this was mind-blowing.
Wow.
And he was commanding that place like it was nothing. And dude, yeah, I only had to say it one time.
Wow.
I can go in the studio right now. I don't have an ideal in my brain about nothing musically. I don't even hear no music right now. But I can go in the studio and create and come out with something hot. It won't be a waste of time. I don't do stuff that's just okay. I know when I do the records I write and the stuff I do, we already know what it is when we do it because of that model, because of his style, because of him making sure, like, I would hear stuff and hear him doing something. I'm like, oh, that's it. It's there. He's playing it, and that wasn't it. But when he was done, can't take it away ever.
Rodney says the same thing when
Shout out to Teddy Riley, man. Hey, I just sent him a record too. He was like, "Oh, that's dope." You know, that's everything, man. That's my mentor. That's my brother, man. You know, he was in a tough spot.
Wow.
I think anybody that's criticized him hasn't put themselves in his shoes, and that's what I learned how to do, man. You know,
what was the first thing that you did then at Future? I mean, I know you did the Tammy stuff, but then when that didn't come through, did you any of the remixes?
oh, the Future was yeah, my first record was, I think it was Bobby Brown. Bob came in town and Teddy told us, yo, you know, like yo, Bobby's coming. You know, we got this, we got that. And I'm just like, everybody, you know, so if you guys, you know, he's telling us like, I want to help y'all get on Pride. Like, we building the camp. We're gonna work on everybody. And so I don't know, man. The guys were more comfortable than me. They would go home at night. However much work Teddy did, however long he stayed at the studio, that's how long I was gonna be there. Cause that's what I was there for. And I think I was different than those guys. I was coming out of I was incarcerated.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Yeah. So there was a maturity and there was a discipline, I think, that I had that maybe they didn't learn as fast. And so I always knew when that door opened from room A and I was in room B, when he comes out, I'm pressing play. and I'm turning it up just like he did. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so he was tired. They was getting ready to go to bed. They was finishing the Bobby Brown session, and Bob came over and he was like, Mike had been telling them, my producers out there, check him out. And they came out. Dun, dun, dun. You know what I'm saying? I've been there with the end of time.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is when I did that melody, it was so simple to be. I don't think I put a lot of effort into it, even though I know it did. But I started learning how to lay foundations that artists would like musically.
Mm.
And I didn't expect them to. I did not expect. I knew what That's the Way Love is. I knew what that was. I knew that was musically dope.
Which
You know
one
what I'm
did you
saying?
do first, though? To the End of Time, or
At the time.
so? So, what did you come up with? Because I know
I had
it's
both. Actually, I had both tracks. I had them both
so
locked
with
and
the
loaded.
so with the To the End of Time, so it starts off then and then it comes up with a then the sort of so what did you bring in, and then how did Teddy just say, okay, let me add to that, or what how does it work?
Well, he added to it, but he just interpreted what I was doing, and I think he just brought it to life with other colors, and then always arrangement. That was his thing, was arrangement, and how to set things up and go. Because I was just somebody who would just create tracks. I could just do tracks all day, and that's kind of like what I knew to do, is like, put them together. So even with like That's the Way Love Is, the intro.
Yeah, no, we go to that one because that's a big track. With that To the End of Time, the drums.
Mhm.
So did you who brought in who
I
programmed
already
it?
had the drums. I
Oh,
already
you
had the
programmed the
drums.
drums? Okay.
All he did was mix it, and like, just he would add like touches, like
Mm.
like it was a foundation, but he would just add like feels, 8-bar feels, turnarounds, strings, interpretation. But the track it was already there, so it was a good handoff. It was the alley oop, really.
Did you the keyboard solo? Did you think about it in there, or who came up with the idea? Let's have a keyboard solo with the.
That was Teddy. That was his signature. That was Teddy. That was Ted.
So if he didn't do that, what would you have left in there instead?
I would have did the same thing he did, just probably my version of, that solo.
Okay.
Because I think I already had some stuff there musically. Keep in mind, I'm making music like Teddy Riley. So there was a spot probably where I think I did have a solo there, and I think that's what he did. I had a solo there.
Okay.
And I think just
Yeah, and then so Bobby, did he love it as soon as he heard it, or?
Oh, he went crazy. And then we went straight into the room and started writing. And I was one of the guys. A lot of producers that just did tracks, they didn't participate in the writing, but I always participated in the writing of the song.
Okay. Oh, the lyrics as well. The lyrics, you mean?
Until the End of Time is they all came with titles. When I do a track, I've already written the title.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then Two Can Play That Game, which should have been the lead single. It should have been the first single because we had just had Rum Shaker. So to have Bobby Brown featuring Rex and Effect, that should have been the lead single. And it was big in Europe because you must have seen the remixed version. So how did that come about when you came up with that track?
No, I didn't do Two to Play.
Sorry, That's the Way Love Goes. That should have been. That's it. Yeah, That's the Way Love Goes with our Kill. That's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah. I did that out here.
Oh, before you moved to Virginia.
That track was rocking out here, dog. I already had it. That's one of the most complete things I've ever gave him. He really didn't have to do much to that. Like, I had that.
You had the name of it, but you didn't have. Did you have the lyrics already written down, or what did you have?
I had the ideal in my mind. That's the way love goes. I mean, that's the way love is. I'm sorry.
That's the way love is. Yeah.
Get that mixed up with the Janet Jackson.
Yeah, with the Janet Jackson.
And people think we bit them, but they actually probably bit us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's so whose idea was it to get her killed to also to write
That was him. That was Teddy.
okay.
Akil was in the studio, and I think he just wanted to get out on it. And he's dope, man. That's my brother. Shout out to Akil, man. One of the best.
Yeah.
Dope voice, pen crazy, cool, bro. You know what I'm saying? Real dude. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the way love is. I it should have been the lead single, as I
It
said.
should have.
Um, yeah, MCA they admitted that they messed up on the album on how they
And you
put.
know what? I don't know why it wasn't, but I felt like that the whole time. Like, why isn't this is like, because musically, even with the bass line, the heavy bass line I put out on it, you know, like with that feel, um, you know, like that's one of the dopest tracks I've ever did.
Yeah, that's the way. And you have Teddy with the vocoder. That's the way.
Yeah. Oh,
Makes
he
me.
laced it. He knew how to make it funky. You know, Teddy, man, like you still can't. It was what it was without him, but it is it is what it is because of him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you say? You can't take anything away from what he did.
Yeah, but as I said, so the Lil Sal later said that he thought he would replicate the formula for Don't Be Cruel album, and he came out with two LA and Babyface tracks, and then Prerogative sort of took it back up. So he thought, yeah, we'll start off with LA and Babyface again, and then we'll bring in the Teddy stuff to take it off. But
The tables had turned. The era had switched. The music had changed.
then Humping Around was just, it was an imitating New Jack track that wasn't as strong, and so how and so they that was that, yeah, and then Good Enough too. It just wasn't Bobby. So by the time they try to catch up, so if you look at the video for That's the Way Love Goes, it's That's the Way Love Is. He started to look like the bad boy Bobby, but he didn't start off that way. So
And that's what I'm saying. And the other part was the responsibility of him, not the responsibility, but the also his connection to Whitney Houston and her being such a big pop star and the relationship. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there was a lot of factors in that sense. But I think that I didn't. When I saw that record, I'm like, I took it as the same thing you did. Like maybe they're just trying to get the project opened up. But to me, no, people didn't like the record.
no,
They didn't like it.
no. So after you did the two stuff with,
anybody said they liked the record, and you know what? I didn't like the record, but it was good production. I get what it is, but
yeah,
we had better records on the project.
much better. Yeah, much.
Are you saying I had a better record than LA? I mean, Babyface. Is that what you're telling me?
You know what? You have to understand that Babyface has admitted to himself that
No slide on Babyface, the best songwriter we ever seen.
yeah,
Man.
and he already admitted that when he heard I Want Her, that he knew that, man, this is different. But after you did the Bobby stuff, what did you then did you still stay with Teddy? What else were you doing before you moved?
Well, no, my family was going through something. My grandfather passed while I was there.
Oh,
And so I had to come home. I came home to bury my grandfather. And there was a situation that, it was kind of like in question where Teddy wanted me signed directly to Future. I was never signed to Future.
okay.
So that was the problem. I was never really officially an in-house producer. I'm really somebody who just came through there and got what I needed to do and took off.
Okay.
But that was kind of like the thing. Him and Mike was trying to work that out. Like, am I gonna be signed there? What's this? What's that? And I don't know. For me, oh, I was at Interscope and saw Shook. No, that's not what happened. G Thing came out. And when I saw the video, we was all sitting in the day room. I don't know if Mucho remember this, but I told everybody, I'm out.
As soon as you saw this?
Yeah, because I knew what it was. I knew what was happening. I knew the West was on.
Oh, Are you serious? As soon as you saw the Snoop
I'd
Dre.
already talked to Suge. Suge had already told me go to Virginia, for a little bit, and as soon as we get this popping, and come back out here and work with us.
Wow.
So I had already told them I was gone. I didn't go to Virginia to stay though. Anyway,
Okay.
I went there to get what I needed. I
Mm,
didn't want to be up under Teddy or nobody. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be up under Dre. I'm me. You know what I'm saying? I don't.
yeah.
And so we was in the day room. When I heard it, I knew the sound was flipped. It was over. It was done. It was a new era. G-Funk.
Mm. See that influenced Blackstreet's debut album. He did a lot. He kind of moved from New Jack to do some of that G-Funk when he did the Blackstreet album, and some of us as big fans weren't too overly impressed that he just left his sound and followed the West Coast sound. And sampling. He's used to sample a lot of James Brown, but he kind of moved to the George Clinton stuff because that seemed to be popping.
That's where it was going. Yeah.
But you went and did stuff with Troop.
Yeah.
So where were you back in LA when you got to meet up with Troop?
Hold on. Oh, I did Troop with Mike
Okay.
the first time. And Sylvia Wrong, the legend, the great Sylvia Wrong.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I think this was prior to, actually I had did Troop, I think before I went to Virginia.
no, I think the album came out in 92.
92.
The
Yeah,
Deeper
so
album.
yeah, the Deeper album. So I might have did that like in between that time, because that was a time where I was on planes, man, like
Wow.
every other day. I was either there. I was going from Cali to Oakland to Virginia and back because I had work to finish in Oakland with Louis Burrell and Hammer.
Okay.
I was working in both of those camps. So it was Future and Busted Records.
Oh, so that's when you had Troop when they were at Buster.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, with Busted.
Okay. Then others were asking about you did some work with Special
Let me say
Generation.
that right. Bust It.
Busted,
Not
busted, yeah, busted.
Yeah, Bust It. Like Bust the Move.
Yeah. But you did stuff with Special Generation on the second album.
Right.
Yeah.
I worked with they just gave me any work that I mean, everybody that was over there probably did record work.
And then
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you remember from the Juvenile Committee?
Oh man, wow. So that was dope doing it, working on in connection with film. Because I got to work with and meet the great Hank Shockley. And I worked with Hank, and I did that record on Juvenile Community, and Mike was involved with I guess Hank, yeah. And he loved the record I did. He said, "Do a record for me, man. I got somebody working on this movie, man. I need a record with Juvenile Community." And I'm like, "What's the name of the things?" Like Juice. So I wrote, he wanted all the juice.
Wow.
Yeah, and Juvenile Community, they were some little babies from the projects. Used to come to my place, man. I had such a nice place, man. The dudes came to my house one day and hit up on my wall in my living room, dog, like it was the street corner.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, what? Are you crazy? But it's just we all were from the streets, And so that was dope because I got to learn about film and scoring, and having that whole
Wow.
experience, early.
Mm.
And I think that was my first gold record.
But you also worked with The Party on their
Mm-hmm.
album All But About Love.
Yeah, I think that was through John McClane.
Oh, the big John McClane. That's okay. So he's
Legendary.
legendary. Michael Jackson's all that stuff and Janet and stuff. So this is my conception of connecting you with these guys.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Mike and Louis Burrell and Shook. They always call me for work. And Wes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then when did you finally make the decision to did you join Death Row as an in-house producer officially when Dre left?
No, before that. I was already in-house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, once I came over there, I was in-house. Yeah. I did my contracts and, I started working. I went to Death Row to help with the R&B side.
Was it with Danny Boy and Jewel and
Specifically Jewel.
okay.
That was really the reason why I went there. That was the mission. The mission was Jewel.
Okay. And were you also was G1 also part of the R&B with you? Oh, sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
What is that saying? Recording stop.
Yeah, no, because when you stopped this, I just stopped the recording so that
okay,
yeah,
okay,
it's
okay,
right.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, okay.
I was thinking about because I interviewed G1 a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about also working on some of the R&B tracks as well at Death Row, and so because most of us thought of Death Row and we all knew about Dre, and when he left,
But Suge loved R&B. But Suge, listen, Suge would come there. This is funny. He would come to my sessions, man, and tell me to play this one song, 3 Wishes, and throw a party in the live room. Dude, I've seen Suge in the live room dancing like he was at the club.
Why would he change? I mean, why didn't he want to keep Death Row as a hip hop label? Because that was his bread and butter. Why then
because his background was R&B.
Oh.
Being at Solar Records.
Oh.
Yes, Times 3, that was an R&B group.
Yeah.
So, but he had Jewel as a singer, and he just knew, we knew how dope she was, but she didn't, the people that were trying to do music with her were hip-hop producers who didn't really know how to do, R&B music. They just knew how to make beats, not how to write songs and facilitate somebody that really sings. So she was frustrated. And so we met at Larrabee's, and he was like, Mitch, I want you to do Jewel. He already knew who he wanted me to do and who he was bringing me over for. After Troop, he liked the Troop project so much. That's what people had, that was kind of like my calling card at the time. And so they were working on Above the Rim soundtrack, man. That was so crazy when I was hearing that Regulate. We knew it. We couldn't wait. And that's really what did it. Like that Above the Rim soundtrack is what set things in order.
Okay. Because that was a big, massive album.
Come on. Have we seen a soundtrack like that have that impact since then? I don't know if there's anything like that.
On the R&B side, everyone would always talk about Waiting to Excel, but as I said, from the collection of hip hop R&B, Above the Rim, because it still had SWV on it, so it was still,
Look how many artists that spawned off of that had career after that soundtrack. It's just amazing.
Yeah. But then the big thing has always been, because you produce Toss It Up. We heard a story from Teddy and Jimmy Iovine that they came out with No Diggity, and Dre does the rap on it, and it seems as if Suge is like, man, I'm not happy about this, so we get the similar sample to do the Toss It Up record, and Teddy goes to Jimmy Iovine.
Toss It Up has no sample on it.
Well, the same type of. It seemed as if it was the same type of.
We actually replayed it. I actually had a guy replay it, and Mike. We also mic'd the floor with the foot pad. So I recreated we created that whole symbol. But here was the thing. When you work in a camp, see, the difference with me was when Teddy had the situation where he couldn't produce outside of his agreement, there was some restrictions because he was locked into an agreement I was one of the outlets that he could use to, filter that situation where he could still work and still get his money. And so when Toss It Up came, it was kind of just like, you've used my stuff. We've worked on these things. We've had these samples. I had all the same sounds he had. We had the same kits. You know what I mean? Everybody in that camp had access to the same things. And so there was another version of that song, Toss It Up,
that we didn't get to hear.
that you didn't get to hear. It's probably on YouTube. I think it is. Yeah, huh? There's another one. And actually, Devontae even said he liked that one better. But when you're out here competing, I felt like, yeah, there was things that were mine that I felt like were used. I think, I mean, just like, and what I'm saying, like, in terms of styling and flavor and coming up with things, if I'm doing records and you can get paid under me or through me, and we can get the project and you can guarantee that the work is going to be right, which he did. He would guarantee that the work would be right. He was like, I was facilitating, in a way that where I was doing the music and he was getting credit for things that he didn't work on. It's okay then, right? So tell the full story. No disrespect, but dude, like real talk. You was able to get and do projects. I did the work and his name was tagged onto it. It made sense. We got more money, got more, it brought more weight to it, but I did the work. So when that time came, there was all kind of things in the atmosphere. He came to Death Row to try to get, to work. And it was just like our wires got crossed behind an incident, at Future. That I think he should have stayed solid with me. And he was just young and didn't know how to do it. And there was a young lady who everybody felt like was, we were told that was off hands. And I'm in Virginia Beach, I'm 20-0. You know what I'm saying? And I broke that code, but dude, my grandfather died. I was going through something, and I felt in that moment he didn't hold me down like we had held him down. You know what I mean?
But then did you take it personal, the Toss It Up situation? Did you think? Because I thought it was actually because they thought Suge was trying to
That
derail
wasn't so
Dre.
much me as it was Suge and Pac.
Okay.
But it was me. And it was Suge. It's like, and Dre, because of the Dre thing. So that was the elements of it, like just keeping it clean. We had all these ideas and musically and stuff, but that's what generated that beef, so-called beef, or just that, like, hey, let's just flip it.
Yeah.
It's music, hip-hop. Who says it's his? It wasn't his track. It's just a, but for me, it was like, I'm gonna do what you used me to do. Remember when you used me because I could sound like you, I could do tracks like you, and you could get your money and get paid. Remember that? Okay, well now I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna get paid for it, and I'm gonna use you this time. What's the problem?
Mm.
This time I get to do it.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's the thing because we you know we as a public we were sold a different story that oh this is Suge trying to sabotage anything that Dre's on, and so but we didn't know that.
Well, we were competing,
Mm,
but how could that be when Teddy came to Death Row and tried to work at Death Row? And I told Suge, absolutely not. They was in the back, Blackstreet, all of them. I was like, I let it ride a little bit because I was still, in favor of, I still had an affection for Teddy in terms of what he had done for me as a mentor. You know what I mean? But
mm.
the other things, I was just like, wait a minute. When that happened in Virginia, you didn't hold me down. And now you in LA now that we getting money now. You out here? Absolutely not. I'm like, get him out of here.
This is before No Diggity or after because I guess
Before.
before they blow up in No Diggity.
They were working on it then.
Okay.
And I was like, that was it. Like, Suge knew. I was like, dude. And it was so funny. It was so funny because when Teddy came in to Death Row, I was in the A room working on Jewel. And David Kenner, Jimmy Iovine, what's Jimmy's partner at the time? Jimmy Iovine and how did I forget the other guy? That's crazy. His partner. But they were all there. All the heads was there. And I'm sitting in a chair, and when they came in the room, I just pushed play on Jewel. Somebody just mixed a record that's incredible. And I knew what it was. It was G-Funk and New Jack Swing. Hidden, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And Teddy was like, yo, he was like, yo. He was like, what's that? He didn't know. I kept my back turned. They're behind me having a meeting. He doesn't even know it's me this whole time.
Wow.
I'm sitting there straight, acting like I don't know what's going on behind me. And the first silent moment, Suge came in, he was like, let me hear that. Beat the walls down, dude. And when I turned around and he saw it was me, he was like, like, what you expect? You know what I mean? But I was me before I went to Virginia, dog.
Mm.
So, like, I give him credit for what I learned from him, but, but we all learn from somebody, right? We all are influenced by who was he influenced by,
Yeah. What happened after when Death Row sort of, I would say, collapsed or so? You did Danny Boy and all this stuff. What happens to you, especially as when what did you start moving to start doing? Did you decide no more music or?
No, I didn't. That's not where it stopped at. When because people don't realize I have another music career and another name.
Oh, okay.
I was going through, like my own conversions, you know what I mean? And so that was one of the things. But after that, after Death Row, I was working with Louis Burrell, and we did another album on Troop. I had my own independent label. And then after that, it was gospel that took off. Kirk Franklin and I got a hit. And I ended up through Jimmy.
Okay.
He put me with Ricky Mack. And immediately I did the Gospel Gangsters, Donnie McKirkland, John Gibson, Trinity 357.
Wow.
Everything they did, everything. Kirk Franklin.
So you went back to your church roots, or was it just more of a that was where the avenue was, or was it just you had a calling?
What, bro? I'm gonna be honest with you. Vicky, I love her. She's my mother, like one of my moms. And it was like it was being called back to, like a spiritual awakening at that time because of what happened, because of the darkness. It was a dark cloud over Death Row. Like it just was at a certain point, it was out of control. It was everything that we tried to get away from was there with us. And for me, it was frustrating because Mike had drilled me about coming out the streets and leaving the streets alone. And then here I am now with a bunch of fake industry people pretending like they're street who didn't have, these guys don't have no criminal history. I do, you know, I'm a 2-time felon. I'm a violent crime offender, you know, as a youth. And they're promoting what I'm trying to get away from.
Mm.
And I'm just like, that's cool. Musically, it's cool, but then it's like the streets was in it. And so when I met Vicky, she saw who I was, I think.
Who's Vicky?
She saw
Vicky?
through Vicky Mac Latiat,
Okay.
the legend, gospel-centric, be-right music. Kirk Franklin, you know, Kirk Franklin is like the name, but in terms of artists. And she had a label through Interscope.
Yes.
And so when I went there musically to work with a group, the Gospel Gangsters, they were street. And so they identified what we were doing. It was the perfect fit. And Steve Stout, let's mention the names.
Oh, Steve Stout.
Actually, who introduced me to her. And it was kind of one of them situations where I had a deal in New York. Donnie Iron flew me to New York because I had this one record on me as an artist called On One. He was interested in me and this other girl as artists and me as a producer. And I met Steve Stout, and Steve was working with both Columbia, Sony, and Interscope, making his transition to come to Interscope at the time. And so we had an issue. I dealt with it like how West Coast people deal with issues. Yeah, because he kind of like had kicked the deal, not kicked the deal off the table, but it just got weird, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, you're not gonna come here and just work. So I showed up to Interscope with my hood, with my homeboys. Shout out to the homies who went with me that day. My homeboys with me that day. And I went up to Interscope Records, and I had Top Dog with me that day.
Okay.
And me, him, and Top Dog went in a meeting, and there was work that was being done, a record and some things. It was some, you know, weird business. Like, he was kind of like, I was doing the work, there was some interest, and then he was like, you know, it was like he was leaving, so I don't think he could really facilitate what he was trying to do. And his interest was, you know, wherever it was. But he came to LA, and it's like, wait a minute. You basically kind of like killed us. Not, I probably made the mistakes with that situation. Some rookie mistakes with that deal, with such a large deal, because I was so anxious to get it done that I tried to switch attorneys in the deal. I didn't understand what I was doing, you know, like, because a friend of mine already had a deal at Columbia, Kevin Lewis, rest in peace, who actually ended up being Suge's right-hand man. And so there was some, I didn't understand the politics of record labels, how if you have a Sony Music, you have all these other labels in the house. Even though they're in the house, they're still competing with each other.
Wow.
So I met Michael Malden, you know, Jermaine Dupri's father.
Yeah, yeah.
And he loved what I was doing. I mean, but it was like, who's this guy that Donnie Iron is telling everybody to clear their meetings for that they wanted to meet? It was me. And so when that deal didn't happen, Steve Stout came out here, I was like, oh, you're not gonna come here and boss up and, you know, not, you promised me a deal. I send an artist out there. You try to take my artist. Let's just talk about it. Me and Steve are cool. I don't have an issue with him. He probably don't even care, but you know, like, you know, Steve Stout is, you know, he was young and arrogant and, you know, in a way, and confident, and, you know, it's kind of like why him and Diddy got his wires crossed. Same, almost kind of like some of the same scenarios. And I was there when that happened to him. Not there, but we were dealing with each other when that happened. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it was just like, you're not gonna come out here. Death Row saved Interscope. They were banking. Everybody knows that. Now you're gonna come out here. You don't really mess with the West. He didn't want to hear any rap, so that was offensive. To go to New York and play hip hop tracks and they don't want to hear it. But I had this record I sampled from Mobb Deep.
Oh, that's his people.
Boom. And he flipped. And so he wanted the record, and that's what gave him interest. I played like 6, 7 dope tracks, dog, and he didn't want to hear no R&B. And so I was like, I had this one record on me, and I played it, and he went crazy. So then there was talks of us being artists and all that, but I was in a situation where I needed money. And so that's how I kind of like messed the deal up, trying to hurry up and get it done.
Mm.
But my thing was, okay, it was very disappointing, to come back home and then it kind of like went away. The interest went away. And next thing I know, he's at Interscope Records. Like, oh no. So me and Top went, I met with him, and then we started doing business. And Top was, he was my goon at the time.
You only learned from Big West and Dick Griffey.
and Top is he's a model citizen now, but back then.
I mean, most of us know him for signing Nate Dogg.
Who?
I don't he was signed to Top. Pardon?
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. I thought Nate Dogg was signed to Top.
No.
Oh.
Kendrick Lamar. SZA. Schoolboy Q. Absol.
Okay.
Reason. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I thought. Okay. Okay. Not okay.
Dog Entertainment. CDE.
Yeah.
There may be another dog or something. I don't know. Maybe you may be thinking of, but.
Oh, okay. No, I thought it was him. But then, when did you? When it got to the 2000s and everything was digital and the music industry was moving away from R&B and what? How did you transition?
I got distracted. You know what? Honestly, to keep it real with you, man, I got distracted. I got distracted with just the power of the internet. Period.
Oh, what do you mean distracted?
Because it was just, you knew the possibilities, and I was really trying to understand, where it was going, where it would be going, like, and what was happening. And so I almost couldn't work sometimes because the internet existed. Like, it would always be this, it's the World Wide Web. I can find out anything, I can see anything, I can, you can go anywhere on the internet, in your mind. You know what I'm saying? You can find out anything, like kind of like what this AI is doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a technical guy. I developed an app. I had an app built, and I designed an app. And for me, it was a talks of how technology is going to kind of like ruin music in a sense. That's what we kept hearing. And so I was really distracted with that. And like, man, I got to figure out what this is and how this is going to work, And so musically, career-wise, I started having thoughts of, okay, how do I make money in music without being in the studio?
Wow.
And the technical side of it, how do I, how do we facilitate and maximize what's happening? And so, after Pac got killed, the West was dead until Kendrick Lamar, What a Game, and Kendrick Lamar. And me and the Game did some early stuff, like some mixtape stuff early on, you know what I mean? But I lost the love for it, in a sense, because of I got there, I made it at the biggest artist in the world, and he got killed. So for me, it was, it's like, damn, I could have did this in the streets. Like, how is this happening when we're talking, me and Pac are talking about taking over, and at this point, it's just me, Pac, and Suge, at the mansion in Malibu, plotting to take over. And Pac's on his way to Vegas. The record's not out yet, but it's at radio, in a sense, like leaked. And there's all this talks, and we have all, I'm where I want to be in position for the first time.
Mm.
It's not about Teddy. It's not about my managers. It's about Meech, the music, and the artist.
Mm.
And so when he got killed, man, it just was like it took a while to be able to do music again and love it. And actually, I just got back to where I love music again.
Wow.
Period, bro. After Pac got killed, I didn't even like music like that. I did, but it wasn't the same.
Wow.
And then, kind of like when TD was coming, like it was always the same. There was just so many things behind the scenes that mess up. I think that my manager before, kept me away from and kept, cover you from just the dealings.
Mm.
And so, but when he got killed, it really messed me up because it just wasn't worth it. You know, that a man, that you can be that successful and get caught up. And I'm sitting with him. A lot of people know the Pac that's turned on. I know the Pac that was afraid. I know the Pac that was looking over his shoulders when he came into death row the first few days. You know what I'm saying? Like walking into a Pac that was coming into something new. You know what I'm saying?
Because we saw the
And
confident Pac, but you saw him.
yeah, I mean, we had talks about, just different things, like, and I don't think I would talk about it. It's very difficult to talk about
Yeah.
because even though he's not here, he shared things with me as a brother, that personal stuff,
Mm.
between family issues.
Mm.
And man, I just started seeing like, man, he really is like flying by the seat. He's really like flying by the seat of his pants, and it just went so fast. It was just like it was a blur. That time went really quick. And so to reach that pinnacle, and I tell people that, I say, imagine getting where you want to get to, or, like something you want to achieve. And when you get there, there's a casualty, I wanted to work with Pac since Digital Underground.
Um,
My mother always said, always noticed, I look a lot different now, but there was always a resemblance.
well, I
Our
see your
mother,
son. Yeah.
our mothers have a resemblance. And if you look at older pictures, when me and Pac met, Mike's biggest thing was, man, I got a producer, man, and act just like you. Y'all look just alike, man. Y'all gotta be related. So when we met, we just stood there in Atlanta and looked at each other, and then that was it. We was kicking it from them. It was during the time of working on the movie Juice.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was hard, man. It was difficult. It was hard to want to do music again, and that's where Vicky was so, because I was broken at that time. I mean, my heart was broke. You know what I'm saying? Like musically, mentally, and the gospel music is how I was able to, get back into, wanting to do the music because it was a different environment. It was people who, have a different walk, a different viewpoint, and different atmospheres, no weed, alcohol, fights, and all of that stuff. It
Mm.
was, good people, you know, who changed their lives and come from dark places, and so that was kind of like my saving grace, working on the gospel gangsters and being in that environment that
Mm.
brought me back to church, brought me back to, my spiritual belief systems, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because it didn't exist in that environment.
Mm. The one thing we said when we spoke briefly was about how proud you are that your kids are, you know, that they've been able to make it on their own, and that's one of the legacies that you're really proud about. Um, when your son got to,
So I offer my youngest daughter money. I'm like, you need some money? She tells me. And the two oldest, I don't have to worry about if they need money now. You know how you think your youngest might need something or your daughter, but
Yeah.
my son, he's good. You know, he shows up with gifts. My daughters come with gifts. You know, we go out, they treat. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I
But
just
seeing your
think,
son playing parkour, how hard was that?
mm,
Was that tough for you to see your best friend being portrayed by your son?
dude, I when we recreated that scene where he gets killed, it wasn't a dry eye on set. To get that far, shit. And two black males, dog. Like he was like my brother. That's what it felt like. Because we made our bones at the same time. People don't understand. They don't get the juice part. Everybody's talking about toss it up. Me and Dude partied in Miami. Me, him, and Tretch partied in Miami at a Luke Skywalker party, you know? Like we were already cool behind the scenes before we worked together because we worked on the same, you know, because of that project.
Mm.
So I'm callous. I've had to look at a lot of my friends in caskets. Initially, when Pac got killed, I just was angry. But the movie, it just brought it to life. I really got the chance to see what he was dealing with, the education of knowing, you know, because we talked on his way to Vegas. And Jewel tells a story where we begged him not to go. She woke up. We were in the studio. And it's funny you said Nate, because Nate was there. I was there. Eric B was there. Hammer was there. And Hot called and we was trying to get him on his song. Like he was supposed to do his record. Not trying to get him, but he was supposed to get on Three Wishes for Jewel. And she woke up from a dead sleep and she's like, I had a dream that Pac got killed and like he didn't make it. And so when he called me, we called, I don't know if we called or he called me. I think we called him. She wanted to talk to him. And so we got him on the phone and he's like, Meech, why you ain't out here with us? Why you ain't going with us? And I'm like, hold on, man. You know, like Jewel want to talk to you. And I like, she want to tell you something. Like, and so she's telling him in this voice, like, don't go, don't go. But she's more like mad, like, come get on my record. I'm in the studio now.
Oh.
Come get on my record. Like, you not gonna do it. And he like, Jewel, I'm gonna do the record as soon as I get back. And she kept saying, I had a dream, like I had this dream that you got killed. And he didn't want to hear no more. He's like, man, put Meech on the phone. Put Meech back on the phone. He's like, man, she been drinking with us. And I was like, no. Nah. He's like, man, what's up with Jewel? I'm like, and so he said, well, what is she talking about? He's like, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I just don't think it was right. I'm like, what made you put yourself on the cross? And he clearly said, I want my people to know I would die for them. And that just didn't sit well with me, man. I just know you can't, certain stuff you just don't, I don't want to say play with, certain things, you know, the power of life and death is in the tongue, right?
Yeah.
I understood that being raised in the church. I understood that because of where I was at. Because I had said in my cell, my name will be remembered. You know, like I didn't want to die a no name.
Mm.
You know, like people don't have a reason to think about you, or it just never comes up. You know, like you're just forgotten. Like so many of my homeboys who, you know, your name is on the wall for a while, and then after that, you know, the next generation comes and, you know, nobody talks about you as much. I've seen that. So I didn't want that for myself. And so me and him, this is our last conversation. And I'm like, why did you do that? Like, and I said, why do you feel like you need to die? Why can't you live for your people? We need you to live for us, dog, not die for us. And basically it was like, when I get back, I'm gonna do the record. It's gonna be dope, and you know we're gonna finish doing what we planned on doing. And he came out. I think they played the record at the fight, tossed it up, and that was dope. And by that night, man, it was over.
Wow.
And I woke up, got a phone call, and it was just like, damn, I did all this work to get to this pinnacle just for the artist to get killed. Like, damn, like, why? How is this happening? And so I'm like, do I not do music? Do I, you know, what do I do? Like, what do you do from there when your intentions were good? And we set out, all of us are living good. You know what I mean? Like, money wasn't no problem. That was no issue, you know? We're living, you know, an inside lane lifestyle. We got carte blanche on everything, you know what I mean? It's VIP red carpet and, you know, special interests, you know?
Mm.
And then that happens and it just brings it all back full circle. Like, that wasn't worth it. So for my son, when I went and met with LT, my brother, and they kept it real about, you know, he told me, you know, that, you know, he saw the likeness in Lil Meech and you know, that we knew that he could possibly do it. But when we were on set that day, bro, that was the first time I grieved.
Wow.
I hadn't shed a tear until my son was there. And it was so eerie because, bro, those guns, I checked those guns in those blanks. You know what I mean? Before those scenes. And I stayed with them all the way throughout because it was just that eerie. Like, you just felt like anything can happen. You just felt like it was just such a dark cloud and such like a mystery of this energy. When we got to that scene, it was just like, when they had that meeting, and shout out to the homie, who was one of the ones who did Mano. And he'll tell you, I checked those guns and I made sure, I damn near wanted to pat him down to make sure they didn't have no more, you know, anything else. But it was crucial, man. It was hard. And when my son was laying out there, I was crying. Not only did I see Tupac die, but I saw my son die. So yeah, it was hard.
Mm.
But that was the first time I was able to grieve for Pac. I hadn't cried before that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been able to celebrate him since with any kind of projects? And I know they do the documentaries and Dear Mama and all these other things, but what about yourself? There's a side of him that you know.
No, cried on set, cried in the movie. I can celebrate what it's done for my son. And that kind of like that's been the healing part of it, is like, through this situation, my son was put in a position because of the likeness and because of my relationships. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because of the relationship, he had carte blanche. And man, going through that process, man, he did a lot of education. We studied everything about Pac, you know. He did. He lost himself,
Mm.
you know, at a point. But you can't make this stuff up, man. Who could write something like this? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how does that happen? Tupac gets killed, we're cool at the end. I work on Juice, I work on Machiavelli. And then my son plays him and All Eyes on Me. And you got people now saying he's Tupac's son.
The resemblance is striking. It's amazing.
He ain't got no kids, man. He don't got no children, man. Right? He don't got no children, but and guess what? I want everybody to know this. If he was his son, we'd have the Tupac estate. Trust me. I wouldn't have him get that estate because I raised him.
Okay.
He's mine. I had him at 17. There was no such thing as a Tupac like that then. You know what I mean? There was no meetings with his mother. You see all this bullshit on the internet about they must have been in the studio. Like, my son's 34 years old. He's not 24. You know what I mean?
I mean, Mitch, just finally, because I've kept you.
Actually, yeah, he was in Virginia. You know what I mean? We talked about it.
Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah.
With Deja and with Teddy's daughters
Yeah,
running around.
Taja, Deja.
Taj
Yeah,
and Deja.
yeah. I mean, I've kept you for a while, but I just wanted to see, what can people expect to see from you now? Because you showed your partnership with Soulja Boy. And is there anything else that we should look out for from you, either musically or just project wise or?
Yeah, I got a vodka coming. I have a liquor company. With my partners, we acquired the #1 vodka company. I have liquor coming.
Wow.
And more technology. And then on the music side, I'm back to the music. So I'm looking for artists that are dope, turnkey, ready to work, doing gospel, doing R&B, all of the things that, I love, like gospel, R&B, and hip-hop. It's just music, back to the music, back to the foundation, back to playing, as a musician, back to performing as an artist, you know what I mean? Like, just all of it. I'm gonna ride out with the music.
So with the music wise, are you overly, because right now it's all digital and making money from it isn't as easy as it used to be. Is there any concern about that? Is it more like doing music for the love of music and putting it out? Or is it about, man, we need to make sure that we're recouping our money when we do release music?
It's about making money, but it's about the whole scope of what that is. Hold on one second, I got to turn my charger on here.
Okay.
Because now it's going through my thing will let me.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's about making money with it because there's still business models that work, and I understand the scope of it. It's not just music. Music is the flyer now, so it's music, but it's the experience. It's building the fan base. It's monetizing, which we help artists do, as you can see with like a Soldier with Big Draco. You know what I mean? It's like you get popular music wise. It's shows, it's merchandise for sure, and it's branding, and technology. And so I think the scope is bigger now. Yeah, I used to get paid musically to do this and do that, but when you're creating brands and creating products like that,
yeah,
this is brick and mortar, type stuff. But even this, we sell this digitally. So the whole scope of even how you sell, nobody's nobody's in stores, anymore. It's like it's all online. And what ran us over at one time gives us access to the world at the same time.
Yeah. So when you said that you took time off to study the internet, so this is part of it, like, well, because most people go in to make music now as a way of promoting themselves, but not thinking that they can make the money from it. But you're thinking, you did your research and did your schooling. So now when you are creating stuff, you're seeing the potential in all areas.
Man, there's so much potential now, man. It's just like, it's amazing. Like, I'm a little bit jealous that this happened later on in life. But I'm glad I'm here in this time because there's so many shortcuts now. And you can do more work and you can touch more people. And you can, I think it's with everything. It's just, like I said, it's a downside to it, yes, but the upside of it is remarkable.
Yeah.
And you can't compare the two. Like, here it is. Well, we didn't have billionaires in the music business. Look at the list of people who crossed over into being billionaires now.
Yeah.
In music.
Yeah.
So did it really mess up the game? Or do we have to just be more educated and be and diversify and become real, like business mind? Look at what Nipsey Hussle was doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As an artist. And you can get rich, but the wealth model is purpose. And that's what I learned.
Mm-hmm.
So as an artist and in music, if you don't have a purpose to give back to the community and change lives, like I have a school I'm working on, Genius Future Academy.
Wow.
We've got donor. We've already got a $50 million pledge for that.
Wow.
In connection with some very prominent people in the business. And in business, we have a Harvard school credential for the students where these are people on the board of directors who work at Harvard Business School in New York, who run it, right? Who want to bring this to inner city children in our, so that's the mission. That's what I've been doing. Is while doing music, trying to figure out how that affects the community and what we can do and how we can bridge the gap, the wealth gap, the education gap. If you ask somebody what it means, like I'll ask you, bro, and not to put you on the spot, but what does it mean when they say time is money?
How valuable every second you have is. I mean, you could do so much with it, or you can do nothing with it with your time. And time is actually the most valuable commodity. If I actually,
you have access to a computer right now?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I want you to look up the rule of 72. That's the real meaning of time is money. Money sitting over time at a certain interest rate is where the saying time is money. It's the rule of 72. I learned that because I was flying first class, in my 20s, and a guy who was a businessman asked me that question. And so that's what I've learned. And that's where I've opened your eyes. I pulled back the blinders off your eyes today. Here's the thing. There's a cotton field version, and then there's a wealth version of some of these sayings that we know. There's two sides of it. In the music business, there's a version of being a star versus being wealthy. A lot of stars are not wealthy. This generation figured it out. The hip-hop generation figured it out. You know what I'm saying? To a large degree, but there's a lot of things that we think wasting time, time is money. That's the slave version. Let's get to work, boy. The empowering version of it is, let me take some money and let it sit at a certain rate. And over a period of time, my money will double and triple. And then, or if I let this amount of money sit over time, I only take the principal. I mean, I only take, what is acquired over the time and leave the principal investment there. You know what I'm saying? Thus the saying, money sitting over time is money. That's the saying, time is money. I live my life decoding all of this now, and you will too. That's where the education that we didn't get.
Mm.
We've gotten the money, but we don't know what to do with it. You've got to invest it in something that, you know, doesn't depreciate. So that's what I've done. I'm like, if I'm smart musically, then and brilliant musically, it needs to translate to my children.
Mm.
I shouldn't have children that are a wreck and that can't, function and take care of themselves and be prosperous. I got a daughter my oldest daughter has authored 2 books,
Wow.
and she has her own business model, doing well. She has a food truck, Black Taco. Shout out to Black Taco, doing well. My son is doing well. My other daughter, she's an artist and back in school to be a dentist. You can see some of her work all around the city as a painter and an artist,
Wow.
and my youngest daughter is in her prospective industry, and I think she's on her way to Clark University, but they're training her in her profession before she's going to school for it. So they're actually paying her to learn how to do what she's doing, and it's a career job.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And that's what they saw in their father, who just, I made it happen. I'm a high school dropout. I had 2 children at 17 years old. I'm a 2-time felon. I was a gang member, and I'm living my best life. I mentor. I got a 14-year-old right now that I look out for, and I do things with, because I'm trying to inspire the next generation, like the people who looked out for me. Clarence Avant, Michael Conception. Let me say that name again or I get in trouble. Mike Conception. I'm gonna say it again. Michael Conception, Suge Knight, Big West, Dick Griffey, Louis Burrell. Those are the guys I aspire to be in business, because they did it, and they showed me what it could be. They saw in me what I didn't see in myself. So I try to do that with the youth now. And the church is a place that you can do it safely. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't need to carry a gun when you go to church now?
Yes, you do.
Well, if you're in LA, I'm sure.
I said I do.
Yeah.
But, there's been some instances where people come in church and, and spaz out.
Yeah.
So, but I don't live by that motto no more, like.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Well, Mitch,
What I do now is I'm gonna say it on record is I actually have security who's licensed to carry,
okay.
and he has an MMA studio. He actually trained and fought with the Gracies. So if you see me out and you try it, you gotta look. He did I think three tours of duty in Afghanistan,
Wow.
in Iraq. I think we can handle the streets.
I always end my interviews by asking my guests that if you were stuck in an elevator and you had to watch a movie until they get you out, what's your favorite movie that you'd want to watch?
Dude, Life. Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Bernie Mac. Come on, that cast. Who else is in that movie? Guy Tori. I mean, dude.
Yeah.
slept on the movie Life, and that movie is so key to what we experience in real life.
Wow.
When I go in the studio, I actually play Life on repeat.
Wow.
It's the only movie that plays in the studio with me is Life, because I can stop working at any point and turn the volume up and just be inspired by, that work. Life explains it, and it shows me what could have happened to me. It shows us the dues that were paid, and why we shouldn't be so quick, to want to go, in a negative place. How easy things can get twisted just trying to make it. Look what happened to these guys.
Yeah.
You know, but I like Life because at the end they're at a baseball game. They made it out. And it's one of
Yeah.
the like movies where they actually beat the system.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I think
Yeah.
everybody else should watch the movie Life. It's just dope.
Yeah, I'm
There's
gonna
no movie in
yeah,
that.
I'm gonna
I don't
go. Yeah, I'm gonna go watch it again. The other question I always ask is, what's your favorite song? So not that you produce anything, but like your go-to song by any artist, by any, doesn't matter when it is, your favorite song ever.
wow. Stevie Wonder is my favorite artist and songwriter. So I have to go with these three words and a SoundCloud change is gonna come.
Wow. Yeah.
Anything new, I mean, new music is new music, but the soul of the music, if you listen at these three words and what he was writing and some of the stuff that Stevie Wonder has written,
Mm.
songs in the key of life, come on, dog. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not nobody over that.
Yeah. So I've interviewed you're probably my 10th producer. And I always ask my guests who are producers, what would make your top 5 favorite productions
Meaning like songs
that you
or
produce? Yeah. So when you look back at your catalog,
my top five produce
your top 5 productions.
everything that got me there. So it would be the Juice soundtrack. He wanted all the juice. It would be Bobby Brown. That's the what's the song? Not
Isn't
that the word. Into the End of Time.
to the end of time? Okay.
It would be a record I did that's like a mixtape record that has Kendrick Lamar,
Wow.
Absol, J Rock on it on one record called We Run This. But production's out. Oh, the Kirk Franklin Lovely Day remix.
Okay.
Craig Mack,
Oh,
Operation Liquidation.
wow.
Um, wow. And probably Jewel,
Okay.
for sure. Just because that's how I got to Death Row.
Okay.
And had we been able to finish that, the conversation would be different. Had Pac came in the studio and did that, put the verse on there,
Mm,
it would have been a different thing. So I just have to honor that because that was one of the things that would have been major for all
yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as a
Troop, the work that I did with Troop.
okay, on the Dip album or the is it on the Dip album or the one that you did
Little
with
something, something, the one that I'm in as an artist. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Mhm.
And then who'd make your top 5 producers that when you look at all the producers out there, who'd be your top 5 when you look at
It's one of my favorite songs back in Leon Silvers.
wow, from Solo. So you must have been okay. The third.
Leon Silvers. We got our wires crossed in Virginia too. He was an
Yeah,
OG.
yeah, he came to do some stuff with Blackstreet, yeah.
Oh, before I let you go, come on,
Yeah,
stop playing.
yeah, he did that, yeah.
That's like one of my favorite songs. Are you kidding me? That record is so dope. Leon Silvers, Babyface, Jimmy Jam, Teddy, Devontae, Timberland.
Okay. That when anyone that mentions Babyface, is it Babyface on his own or LA and Babyface? Because there are two different Babyfaces. Because when he did stuff with LA, that's in the 80s.
Nah, Face on his own.
Oh, when he was doing the Waiting to Exhale and the I Make Love to You and all that.
Face on his own. When he did Whip Appeal and reinvented himself, face on his own.
Okay. Okay.
He had women all around here, man. He had these old ladies. He had my homeboy mamas talking about Whip Appeal. I'm like, that Whip Appeal. I'm like, dude, get your mama.
Mitch, I want to thank you for your time. It's been I didn't expect the how where it was going, but it's been really educational, but it's been emotional.
I've never talked, bro. I haven't done interviews or talked about none of this stuff really. I've just gotten in a place where I could talk about it.
Wow.
Because it was bitter. Even when people talk about, I asked Suge not to put the record out after Tupac died.
Oh, the whole Machiavelli, the whole.
No. Just toss it up. I asked him not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I didn't want it to, I just the energy,
Yeah.
And I understood that, when you put things out, that's that energy will come back.
Were you part of that whole? I mean, I was in Milwaukee when all this was going on, and everyone was afraid of what was happening between the East and the West, even when we were just listening to music. And for you being in and around that environment,
it was never the East versus the West. It was the West smashing on the East. I'm sorry. I got big friends from the East Coast who was here. But it was just, it was like, it was the New York was like, imagine a big brother and a little brother, in music. And the big brother was like, my little brother's, my little brother's not real. My little brother don't know how to hustle. Oh, that ain't what it is. Like, just like they said, we weren't lyrical. Okay, this Kendrick Lamar, see what you get. So it was just always a thing of, there was this business, but there was these two, it was like this bias towards the West. And so it was us versus them. It was us proving, and I don't ever think we were still, we were still cool with New York. There was no beef, no East versus. That was magazine. That's what sold records, man. That's the soul magazines,
Yeah, but it made it seem as if that contributed to the death of Biggie and Tupac because of the rivalry contributed to the death, as if there was actual beef as opposed to a rap battle or music battle. It felt as if it was gangland. And as a fan, as an outsider,
more in the streets than it was more in the streets than anything. But it was crazy because Pac died first, right?
Yeah.
So the day I heard Biggie on the radio in LA, talking about what's up, LA, we knew he was dead.
You're the second person that said that as soon as that he did go into Cali and everything. And
trust me when I tell you, just probably from a more inside standpoint than the person you're talking to, he never should have came out here. That person probably wasn't at our Christmas party. There's a Christmas party legend where somebody who was affiliated with Bad Boy had to jump out a 2-story window. A 2-story mansion window, which is like a 4-story window in a regular home.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it just got real intense, man. And it never felt like East versus West like that, because for me, I had the Virginia family, the Future family. And Eric B is one of my best friends. We're born on the same day. The legend, Eric B.
Oh, from Eric B and Rakim, Eric B.
My brother, dog. there was no beefs with us. Like, you know, these are my guys. So maybe it was, but maybe I didn't see it the correct way.
Yeah.
But I never viewed it like that. We always, they weren't beefing with us. So how do you call it East versus West, or what? What did they do? Who did they kill? Who did they stop? They just started doing music like us. Biggie started copying the West. Puff started copying the West Side with the bass line, you know, sultry bass lines, the soulful bass, you know.
Mm.
Um, but musically, you always competing.
Yeah.
But how could we say that when, even in the instance of that, when they're the influence? In a lot of instances, you know what I mean? They were the mark.
Yeah.
So that was just something, man. I'm telling you, man, they created that. We saw that, man, and it just got out of hand. It was just something. I think the media had a lot more to do with making that real, because I never seen it where it was like we was tripping on people. There was people from the East Side with us. You know what I'm saying? There was Mary J. Blige was in the studio with us. You know, Faith was around. You know, I think it just got. I think a lot of media was irresponsible and just blew it up and made it something. You know.
Yeah. Wow. It's been an awesome pleasure, man, because it's been a history lesson. It's been you know, I watched a lot of this stuff on movies, but I never realized how serious it was. LA, and I mentioned I lived in Redondo and then Culver City, and I saw a difference.
And listen, the reason you was good in Culver City, because we all know not to go over there, and Redondo.
Are you serious?
Man, Redondo, they pull you over so quick. No, for years, when I got in certain places, I would switch cars with my lady at the time, my wife at the time, because I wouldn't drive. That way I wouldn't get pulled over. And then they would pull over and still come to the passenger door and try to check me. So until these laws got correct, man, it was just like,
wow.
yeah, it was just.
Yeah.
And the part was I'm driving Benzes and BMWs and nice cars, you know.
Yeah.
I'm driving nice cars before it was, you know, like everybody in Virginia tell you that I had my Mercedes shipped out there. You know, when I got there,
Wow.
I already had, I already had the stuff that everybody else was trying to get. I was on when I came to Virginia.
Yeah.
That was the difference in me and a lot of those guys.
Yeah. But I mean, you say you're still cool with with the guys out there. I mean,
That's my family, man.
yeah.
That's family. Yeah, that's family. You know,
Wow.
you get your wires crossed sometimes with people, but them was my guy. That's my musical college.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's bro.
Oh goodness. Well, Mitch, I appreciate your time. I hope I have kept you for a while. I really appreciate the story and really hearing this side and stuff. And as a strange thing is that you know your son is more. I searched you up and I said let me try and get a picture of you on the web and everything is your son. So it's as if you don't, and which must be the proud thing because your name continues.
Hey, you could go pages and pages and pages, and then you'll get to me. Or if you type SR behind it, then you'll get me.
The only thing I saw was when you were with William Burt Goldstein, and that was the only thing that popped out. So there's no picture. So that's why I started with that because it was really powerful watching that. But I may actually for a couple of
for all the people who said I wasn't gonna, what am I gonna do with a child? Because I'm one of the son. I purposely did that. Like it wasn't an accident. I thought I was gonna die young.
Wow.
So I'm like, man, I gotta hurry up and have a son. I gotta have children. You know what I mean? I didn't just want a son, but I wanted a little meat. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought maybe I wouldn't be here, and maybe I wouldn't. I saw so many of my friends who they died before they was able to have children. So I'm like, I'm gonna live it all now.
Wow.
That was what changed my life. That's what gave me the hope and determination to be here talking to you now. at 52.
Wow.
Don't block that out, bleep.
That is right, we'll do. Well, I appreciate it, Mitch. I'm gonna actually for a picture though, so I can't, so at least so I can use as a.
Well, I'll send you. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I'll send you the links to show you how to get. You can get to it on internet. You just have to type senior SR behind my
No,
name.
but any of your pictures that you may have though, profile pictures, so that I can.
I got you. Yeah.
I was gonna. Yeah. Any of the.
I got pictures of me and Lou Mitch on set. You know what I'm saying, together.
Yeah. But when I put it out, so people, so there's some pictures of because the only picture I saw was you in the studio, and that's when with Bobby, and that when you were recording, and I thought, okay, but there's not many pictures of you just on yourself, so we can just have a profile picture and stuff. So that would help when I'm putting this out.
Okay, I said, what's the medium I can send it to?
If it's WhatsApp or I can send you my email address.
I'll send on WhatsApp. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can send on WhatsApp. That's fine.
Man, I appreciate that, man. Hot spoke highly of you out, and I know your show is hot, bro. It's an honor. You know what I mean? I didn't know we was gonna meet or talk. I didn't even know anybody was paying attention, bro. But it's good to be attached to some great men and great people, man. And like I just want to say, shout out to Teddy Riley, shout out to Harvey, shout out to Gene Griffin, shout out to Blackstreet, shout out to Guy, Aaron Hall, Damon. Those are my brothers. Aaron's my brother. I got to meet these people, man. And I was watching these dudes in the day room in a camp,
Wow.
on Saturday mornings, and everybody else is watching. I'm saying, that's what I'm doing when I get out.
Wow.
And I did it. So.
And you're inspiring the next generation, which is most important as well.
Anybody who's ever took out any time or done anything for me, I just want to say I appreciate you. I am who I am because of the people who saw what I could be, and I'm still in the process of that. I'm still, we're still doing that.
Yeah. Well, Well, I appreciate it, Mitch, and I'll wait for some other pictures. And I definitely appreciate your time and everything.
Appreciate you, man. Sorry I wasn't in a suit and done up. Or,
no, you're perfect, man.
You know what I mean? I could have been,
No.
It's all good.
It worked out perfectly. I appreciate that. Thanks for your time. But once it's going out, I'll let you know, and I'll keep in touch. And I'm sure Hart will tell you because he watches all the stuff and stuff. So, yeah.
I want to stay connected with you, brother, because you're in a part of the world that we don't know the Black experience in that part of the world, and you do. But I know that music is one thing that brings people together. So I'd love to just keep the ground and what's going on, and the fact that there's a resurgence of New Jack Swing, that's dope.
Yeah, and R&B, but I'm a therapist. I'm a Black therapist. I'm a mental health therapist, and I work with families and kids. So I do depression, anxiety, and I went to college to train as a therapist, and so that's why when I do these shows, I'm talking, I'm listening, and I'm asking the questions. So all the stuff you
got me crying and shit.
See, that's why you notice I kept quiet and I let you process it because that's my day job. So, and it becomes easy to have these long conversations because I don't ask as much about the music because it's about the person, the journey, because that's why I want to inspire the next person to be able to watch this and say, you know what, if I thought I've had it tough, look what Mitch has gone through and look what he's achieved and see what he's given back. So the whole idea of my show is really to push Black excellence and to say, hey, you're not the only one that's had it rough, and look at how others have made it and stuff. And you may think because they've got money that it's been easy for them, but it's not the case. I mean, they've had to find something and pull themselves up. And, so that's why I was really touched by your story, because that will touch other people who are going to be watching this.
Absolutely, man. I was sold out to Crippin'. That's all I wanted to do at that time. And music saved my life. Music gave me a life. Music gave me my life back. Wow. And it continues to do that. Wow. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you send me the pictures, don't forget to send me the link to your product so that I can put it in the description so people get to know that they can, if they want to so they know when to, if when they're watching this, they can click on it and know that they can get to the site to order and stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Hey man, let's stay in touch, man. We're family now, dog. Let's build. Let's like whatever you need me for, let me know, man. Let's do some things. You know what I mean? If you need me to be your arms out here, I got you.
Well, I appreciate that, and as I said, I'll keep in touch because I've been in touch with him for almost 3 years now. He's been, he's a brother to me and stuff. So when he just puts you on the phone, he there's love there. That's Mucho is one of my favorite, best, good friends as well. When he's working on stuff, he calls me, sends it to me in the middle of the night, and stuff he hasn't even finished with, and so yeah, so so I do this, and I still keep in touch with a lot of Sprague. Damien has come on twice, so I keep in touch with a lot of people. So it's not just a one-off because I'm spending 2-3 hours with somebody. So yeah,
that's dope, man. We need to do something where all of us are together on something and have a conversation, but like a live podcast type of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like a virtual sit down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just talk about, the expertise and things that we learn and just share those things. That's something that I want to do. So
yeah, I mean, I've got the channel, and I've got the I did something with Jackie McGee, Pamela Long from Total, and Woody Rock from formerly of Drew Hill. With three of us just had a conversation about why is music sort of not so much darker than it was in the 90s, and and so I'm kind of bring my old guest.
I didn't tell you why.
No.
Oh, let me just tell you, the prison complex. There was a meeting about the direction the music could go and what the results would be. So you just have to look at it. It's like, and that's why I say about when you have the blinders off, you understand. The music is the way it is because the prison complex needed bodies. So if you change the culture, dude, we got girls out here that's hitting like dudes now. Like banging, jacking, robbing, they'll blow your brains out like dudes. It's so normal now. I mean, we got baby killers in Chicago now. Just because of the music and the culture. And it's the prison complex. How do you get people to go to prison? Well, you change the soundtrack to their lives. From love and happiness. Love and happiness. You turn to I'm gonna slide on you. And you drill that with the visuals. And now, man, I mean, there's so much. When I was gonna tell my a friend of mine the other day, like a lot of people don't know the lingo when somebody talking about I upped it on them or I'm gonna up it on you. These slangs now, that's upping a gun. That's what I'm saying. Like so many ways that we talked about destroying each other to the dopest music. It's the music, but that enters into the minds and it has a psychological impact. The same way it does when people, you turn on a certain record, man, there's records. I have to I can't listen. There's certain records I can't listen to around certain people or it will go bad.
Wow.
It's that powerful. Not it will go bad, but I just feel a certain energy. And yeah, it makes you feel a certain way. Like,
yeah. So that was the kind of conversation that Pam said. She talked about how
So Many Tears is one of my favorite records. I mean, it's a Stevie Wonder sample. You know what I mean? I lost so many, I cried so many tears, I lost so many peers. It's in the music, but we've got to get back to making music that, brings life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we will keep in touch so we can have that kind of discussions. That's what I was saying, that I was always open for that because it's about.
I think you're the guy that can help spearhead that, and just like music is supposed to be fun, enlightening, and inspiring, man. It's supposed to carry you, And that's what gospel. That's why I stay attached to. To the gospel because, as a musician, when you play in church, you see people coming there broken, hurt. and you see people going through things, and then you play a song, and then after church, a person comes to you and they say, I just really enjoy, what you do. Like I was feeling so down today. And when you played that song, when y'all sing that song, and it makes you understand the power of it. And so there's a responsibility that we have to the next generation, not to hand them something broken. And that's really why I'm talking. I don't want to hand them something broken. I don't want to hand these children gang banging like it's glorious and like it's cool. It's a trick and a trap. You know what I mean? And it makes no sense that we're at war with our own brothers, behind what?
Yeah.
And I try to tell gang members, even in real wars, there's an ending. There's a such thing called a peace treaty. You know what I mean? There's certain things, wars end at a certain point when you know how to either cut the losses or when you gain something that you wanted. There should be an end to war. Why don't we have an end to our war as a community and people on ourselves? Why is the war on black males ending? When are we going to end the war on black life as a people? Let's just denounce it all in one day and be done with it. The people who don't do it, let's get fed up with it and tell the gang members, if y'all don't come to terms with us, we're going to go against you. We're not going to be bailing you out. We're not going to be supporting you. We're not going to see you as family. You know what I mean? Like, you're against the community. We cannot allow that to be the culture. We're allowing it. It's enough of us on the other side to correct it in love and correct it in firmness. You know what I'm saying? But why are we sitting? I ask people all the time, go on YouTube and type in caught slipping or caught on camera, murder caught on camera, and see what comes up. Us killing us as a rite of passage. Dude, what's going on in Chicago and Baltimore and Atlanta? Atlanta was a safe haven at one point. Now they've all adopted this culture, and look at what's happening, man. I mean, we're dying.
Yeah.
The black community don't exist. I'm looking for one out here. Where's the black community out here? There's, you know what I mean? Like, we're trying to pull this together. And that's what we need to do. It's everybody, every gangster rapper who's ever spit those lyrics, dog, should be mentoring. I'm challenging them. Just get one person and be responsible for pouring into them what you've learned, in terms of, moving forward and getting past, when I'm talking to these guys, I'm telling them, like, dude, your hood is real. Yeah, these wars is real, but how real is it when we all started out? It's a village against itself. That's not the real war. The war is self-preservation and a war against poverty. Let's have a war on dysfunction, poverty, and, black on black crime. That's what the people before us was trying to do. Everybody talks about Martin Luther King. Ask them about the Poor People's Campaign. That's why he was killed. Not because he wanted us all to be together, because he was going after the money. He realized what it was. He said, in his own words, I feel like I integrated my people into a burning house. He regretted, in a sense, kind of like what he did. And it just shows the complexity of society and what we're faced with when you're doing something right, but you may have felt like I led my people astray because there was a time when we did for self and had our own. We don't manufacture, we don't produce. Which is why in the pandemic you see people going crazy because we don't have water sources or food sources. We don't, we're not making our own products. Our money is not circulating in our community. We get it and then it's gone. So we got to build.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I'm definitely going to be open for that because it's, there's so many people that we hope to changing lives and getting people to start thinking differently.
And then I could cry for Nip, bro. I talked to Nip same way. Nip was like Pac coming back to us and like, oh, we get another chance at this. Because he had just started going into that, and sure enough, self-hate. That's why he's not here. I've seen it 2 times. I lived it twice. We were working together. Our families, that picture, matter of fact, that's my daughter's work on the documentary. That big ass painting of him that her grandmother got and that they show in that documentary.
Yeah.
My daughter painted that.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, so man, I appreciate you, brother, man. And looking to stay, looking to come out there, man, and see what's going on out there, man. And looking to work with some artists out there if you know about.
Yeah, it's I'll put you on to stuff. I've got my niece who's a songwriter, producer and stuff. So that's an amazing type of Lauryn Hill vibe. So I'll So I would I'll send you some of her stuff to see what you think and stuff. But yeah.
I'll see some stuff I'm working on.
Okay, that would be great. But I really appreciate your time. But I'm definitely going to keep in touch, and I'm going to let Hot know that we connected, and I'm going to work on putting this out soon.
Yeah, let's do it, family. Let's do something big together, man. Let's keep it going. It started this way, but let's make an impact on the game.
Yeah, that's my talk about mission. My mission is really lifting the communities, whether it's understanding about mental health, whether it's about talking, whether it's about seeing yourself bigger than as part of a community. So that's why I do this. I talk to everyone just to let people know that we've all experienced stuff, but we can pull through. So yeah, I appreciate your story as well.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Okay, so we'll be in touch, definitely.
My brother, and I'll see that stuff. I'm seeing some stuff shortly.
Thanks, man. Take care. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between.
For even loving us, on which I didn't miss you with.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No. Okay, you okay?
They don't understand what Jonas boys and men and all spirits.
Lay it.
I mean, I love all different genres.